guest also Fadimatou Noutchemo, which is the president of a Young African Aviation Professional Association. Welcome back. We are really great to have you there. If you'd like me to start, Ms. Noutchemo and Mr. Ronnie, shall we start?
Yes.
Yes.
Surely.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. If I start with Mr. Ronnie, who is Afema Ronnie, and how did he reach the title of Business Development Manager? Thank you.
Thank you, Kadnan, again. I'm honored to be here. It's really a privilege for us to play a part in such gatherings. We get to meet, we get to share our experiences, and we all get to grow. And before I move on, I did meet Miss Fadimatou in Ethiopia, I think 2 weeks ago. We attended the 11th African convention together. So welcome on board, Miss Fadimatou. Happy to see you here.
Thank you.
So going back to your question, who is Afema Ronnie? I'm a 29-year-old. I'm Ugandan with a very strong background in aviation, which I started in 2018 after finishing my first degree in quantitative economics from Uganda, Kampala. Then I moved to Nairobi to do my flight operations before I started my private pilot flying license. 2 years after, I moved to South Africa. And since 2021, I haven't actively been really flying, but I picked so much interest in, should I say, the heart of the aviation, which comprises mostly of the policymakers. These are guys who manage the industry. These are guys who make the laws that govern what you do every day. So from that time, my passion doubled. I started, my hunger and thirst for the aviation industry, kept growing. I landed in, jobs as an aviation journalist, where I worked for Simple Flying, which is the world's biggest aviation publication. I was the first African to work for Simple Flying as an aviation writer. So before getting to business development manager for Airspace Africa, I first worked for about 2 years as an aviation writer for Airspace Africa. So by the time they advertised for the business development person, after so much experience I had gathered and also understanding the industry in a better way at my stage, I was the rightful person that would give the position to. So from that time till now, it's been growth, it's been connections, it's been learning, and that's where we are today. So in a nutshell, that is who Afema Ronnie is. We lose someone.
Thank you so much. Interesting. Thank you so much, Mr. Afema. If I ask Ms. Noutchemo, who is Ms. Fadimatou Noutchemo, and how did she reach the title of the president of IAPA? Thank you.
So first of all, I apologize for being a little late. I am currently in Astana in Kazakhstan, where I attended the first aviation talks of Kazakhstan. So I'm originally from Cameroon, but I represent Africa, because it is my belief that we Africans, 55 states as per the African Union, don't know ourselves. So I only joined the aviation industry 12 years ago by chance. So the Young African Aviation Professional Association that I founded in 2014 was from my own history, because as an African in Africa, I didn't know much about other African countries until I started traveling into these countries. I discovered aviation in 2020 when I started as the first female senior staff of my national airline, Cameco. And I realized that while I was in school, I never ever considered aviation as a sector because of ignorance. So I decided to create not only an African, but a Pan-African platform that could enable the future generations of aviation professionals to understand the importance and role that aviation plays in our economy as a result of the professionals that I met who had not made the African aviation successful. So I belong to a generation that is in between those who haven't taken us to a further step, because most of the African aviation history is all about failure. Most of the African airlines have closed down. There hasn't been a sustainable development growth for the aviation in Africa. So being in between, I saw that by inspiring the next generations of African aviation professionals, creating a bridge where the professionals existing now could talk about their problems in the presence of the future leaders, it will enable the future leaders to have a better understanding of what aviation is. Because for me, aviation is not an industry like banking, like telecommunication. No, aviation is actually a catalyst to the development of all other industries. So until our governments understand that they should treat aviation differently, invest on the human capacity building, invest on partnership to enable the youngsters to be able to discover what is being done, the best practices that are being done elsewhere, go towards countries that have best practices like Turkey. With Turkish Airlines Group, it's an example out of Africa of a successful industry that has that is producing results. In Africa, we have Ethiopian Airlines, we have Kenya Airways. So for me, my belief was until we get all generations involved in the conversations of what is happening across the world, then we will have at least the opportunity to bridge the gap. Because today we have a huge gap between what is being said, for example, at the ICAO level, because I attend the ICAO General Assemblies. And when I get there and they're talking about the future trends of aviation, I see where we as Africans stand. So that is all the experience that brought me into creating this platform of the Young African Aviation Professionals Association to enable young Africans to get to know about themselves, to enable the stakeholders have a platform where they can interact with the future generations and give them the opportunity to take part in the conversations that are acting in the world. And so I'm just someone who has used her own personal history to try to get solutions for the future generation so that those behind me will not be able to have the same challenges that I had. Because until 2010, I could pass through an airport, get into an aircraft without even thinking about the careers that are involved in the aviation sector. And when we see where Africa is positioned today, Africa is the present and future market of aviation because everything in most of the countries needs to be done. We have 55 states as per the African Union. And out of 55 states, I can say we can count barely 10 that have the aviation in their DNA. So we need within the continent to first believe in our own potential and share our best practices and collaborate with organizations like yours, where you have much more experience, where you can tell us where you started, what were the challenges, what brought you into understanding what you have to do, and what are the training opportunities that the young Africans can do. Because aviation, as I say, is the only industry without borders. It doesn't matter if you are African, from Europe, from Eastern Europe, from Asia. Right now, I'm in Kazakhstan. And I found myself talking to a group of women because women are underrepresented in the aviation industry. So in a summary form, Fadimatou Noutchemo got to initiate the Young African Aviation Professional Association as a platform that could give a voice to the young Africans in all the countries and the youth across the world with the main aviation stakeholders. So I'm privileged to be right now in Kazakhstan with Dr. Aliou Bernard, who was the president of ICAO. So he is willing and supportive on all the initiatives that world youth will be doing in regards to aviation. So I am really happy to be part of this platform. And I really want to see these conversations going forward because we have a lot to do. The world is talking about sustainable aviation, decarbonization, new energy, sustainable aviation fuels. These are the topics and information that we will want everyone to be informed so that those going into future studies will be able to become the actors of the change that the aviation industry is bringing into the world. So I will stop here for now. And I'm happy to spend some time with you this evening to talk about Africa.
That is really interesting information. I hope African countries will finally understand the value of aviation, and we're really proud of you, Ms. Noutchemo. Thank you so much for your information again. If I go back to Mr. Ronnie, Mr. Ronnie, what is the key to become a consistent at the best in the career? I mean, in the career in aviation. Thank you so much. I hope you understood.
Yes, thank you, Nan, for that question. I had my first flight when I was 5 years old. And it's not like I came from a home where my parents were pilots or knew anything about aviation. I come from a family where I'm the first and I think the only person who has shown so much interest in trying to break the barriers concerning aviation. So I had the first flight at 5 years. After that flight, I told my dad that I want to be a pilot, when I grow up. And I'm 29 today. From 5 years until now, I never changed that dream, irrespective of the challenges that I had to face, going forward. But what made me stick to my plan till now? Passion, commitment, the love you have for the industry. I always tell so many of my colleagues everywhere I go that pilots are born, they're not made. Aviators are born, they're not made. You just heard how Fadimatou spoke a while ago. These things are not taught in class. These things come out of a person who has passion, someone who has love for change, someone who has seen a problem in the industry and wants to correct it through the different channels they can be exposed to. So being consistent is a very difficult thing for most students in the aviation industry right now. More so, I guess most of them in this meeting who are at the university. 80% of people who join universities join not because they don't do courses, they do because it's what they dreamt to be when they were kids. No. Partly it's influenced by parents. Some it's about your friends. It's so rare that you find someone tell you, I'm doing what I'm doing now because this is where I wanted to be when I was 4 years. This is when I was 5 years. So the question is, what changes? What changes from when this person is young until they become, a bit older? So many things happen then. Lack of the motivation, lack of inspiration. What keeps you on track to follow your dream as a person? Those are questions we should be asking each other. Speaking for myself, I've always had a thing for planes. In 2017, after finishing my high school in Uganda, I was the 4th best in my country. I studied mathematics, economics, geography, and entrepreneurship. I was a newspaper student, but my parents couldn't afford to pay for me to join a flight school. That is how I ended up joining a university in Uganda to do my first degree. In the process of the 3 years, I spent at the university pursuing my degree, I used to go at the airport like once in a month and spend 4 hours just looking at planes land and take off, with a book in my hand, writing all the most brilliant ideas that would come in my mind and who I wanted to be. Now, that consistency and persistence in me was not seen by everyone until today. When you look at the posts I do make on LinkedIn and what I'm doing right now, there's a story behind it. And just to answer your question, consistency answers every question in what you're chasing for in life. You may not see results immediately, but keep taking that small step every day. At some point, it does pay. And for aviation, it's quite unique in that it's until you be consistent in the work that you're trying to put in is when you will descend. The same thing goes to pilot training. You need to fly. You need to accumulate hours to be certified. You need to, get ranks to be called a captain, a first officer, flight operations officers. All this is knowledge that someone needs to acquire with time, and all that goes back to the kind of consistency that someone will put in. So how to motivate the young aviators, not only in Africa, but in Turkey today, because I mean, at the end of the day, this is not just about Africa. We do fly in one airspace. You know, it's one family of aviators all in together. Work hard, be consistent, expose yourself to as much aviation literature as you can. Read as much as you can. There's so much information out there about aviation that you're supposed to equip yourself with. To be invited and participate in discussions concerning aviation, you need to know at least a thing or two about what you're going to discuss. And that will never come just by sitting in one place or listening to what you will be taught in a classroom. So to make the difference, to make the mark and help those that we're talking about in Africa and the world at large, be the go-getter yourself. Go for what you want. If you really love aviation, then go an extra mile in trying to make that difference. So consistency is key, and may your passion never die in this film. It pays off at some point.
Thank you so much, and perfect. That's really good, helpful information. If I ask questions from the chat or from the audience, it is questions for both of you, Ms. Noutchemo and Mr. Ronnie. We know that some of African countries do not have an airline, and is there any barrier for establishing an airline company? Also, as we know that Africa is a huge continent, and we would like to see a lot of airlines who fly across all Africa. So if I give to Ms. Noutchemo first, welcome.
Thank you. So what you should understand about Africa is that Africa is 5 distinct regions. So we have Northern Africa, Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, Western Africa, and Central Africa. But the specialty about West Africa is that we have English-speaking and French-speaking West Africa. So taking that into consideration, the development of aviation in Africa is diversified. We have aviation being developed in Northern Africa. So when you go to Egypt, Algeria, Morocco, you find airlines with a very strong development because they have the right approach and they have the government support on the initiative because it develops their tourism. Same for Southern Africa. You have a lot of South African countries that have their own national airlines. And when you come to Central Africa, for example, the countries that have tried to have national airlines have not been very successful. The reason being that, this is my personal opinion, governments are very complex in the development of the aviation sector. Governments change management, change policies, change procedure, and this has a serious impact on the development of the airlines. So my airline, my country, for example, Cameroon, had the first airline in the early 70s, but it was declared bankrupt in 2008. And it took from 2008 until 2010, when I was one of the senior staff in that airline. That's actually how I got to get to know about aviation. Nothing was done. So what we've been doing is to let Africa as a whole understand that if a government is not ready to give full management and some independence for the sustainable growth of its national airline, then it shouldn't invest. Because at the end of the day, it gets the tax collection from the citizens to establish a highly expensive industry and is not allowing it to be managed properly. So when I take the example of Ethiopian Airlines, which is a reference across the continent, Ethiopian Airlines is a state-owned, but the government has given the independence to Ethiopian Airlines to manage its activities. So they have some flexibilities that enable them to build sustainable strategies that help them grow and expand. But most of the African countries, when you look at it, most of the national airlines have stopped operations. Today, I work for a privately owned airline, Afrijet. I'm country director for Cameroon. And Afrijet is standing up as a leader in the Central African region because it's privately owned. The advantage of having privately owned airlines with regards to state-owned airlines is that the decision making is very short. It's a product that is adapted to the market demand. With regards to the government airlines that have to follow the government procedures, the bureaucracy that is, aviation is not meant for bureaucracy. In aviation, if you have an AOG, you need to act automatically to get the solution. But if you have to go through paperwork, bureaucracy, authorizations, you waste time. So a result has been, for me, not all African countries are obliged to get a national airline. What Africa should be doing to support the African initiatives like the Agenda 2063, that is the agenda for the development of Africa, going towards a united Africa, for the single African air transport market that was launched in 2018, and the intercontinental free trade zone market that has been launched in 2020. If we really want to go towards that, we need to facilitate the policies to get the private sector involved in the establishment of airlines, so that at least we can rely on them to be successful. In Nigeria, we have the example of Air Peace. In Central Africa, we have the example of Afrijet. And we see the example of Askai, which is based in Togo. So we realize that the concept of airlines being owned by governments in Africa shouldn't be the model, because it takes a lot to satisfy the market, both for recruitment of the young people that are jobless who want to get into the industry, and for the sustainable growth of the activity around the respective countries.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Perfect, interesting information. We hope we understood, the audience understood Ms. Noutchemo's point. If I ask the same question to Mr. Ronnie, you go ahead, Mr. Ronnie.
Thank you, Katan, once again. Thank you, Ms. Fadimatou, for your submission. Always a pleasure learning from you. So, is there any barrier for establishing an airline company in Africa? I'll begin with by saying the only problem of Africa is Africans. There's so many other airlines in different parts of the world, smaller than even some of the big names that we do have on the African continent. It goes back to the beginning and the basis of why an airline is set. If you study, fleet planning and management, I will take a case study of Ethiopian Airlines here. Ethiopian Airlines operates on a vision, okay? It's one of the most organized airlines I would say Africa has ever had. But again, the disparity and the difference between the top airlines in Africa and those that are coming up is too big in that there's no room for partnerships. Look at what Ethiopian Airlines is. Ethiopian is the king of the African jungle. Connectivity in Africa, everything is under a brand. So ask yourself, Africa has 54 countries, like Ms. Fadimatou said. Why is it that, everyone is rushing to partner with just Ethiopian Airlines itself? What have they done differently that the other countries and airlines have not done? And it goes back to what she talked about earlier on. There's so much political interference in the normal, cavalcade operations of airlines. And talking about barriers in this process, I would say the major issue here is its politics. You find a country setting up an airline, not because they actually need it or prepare for it, but because a president or another politician wants to win elections or gain fame just by starting up an airline. What happens after the elections are done? We're talking of bankruptcy, we're talking of airlines closing, we are talking about corruption. All these things begin because the foundations are wrong. You're bringing on board people who have not thought through what it takes to build an airline, people who don't have the right expertise, to see the future of this. Like I asked you at the beginning, what is the vision? Why are you setting up this airline? So it does make, a bigger difference. But that does not mean that, these airlines can't thrive in Africa. Like I said, the biggest problem of Africa is Africans. So until we change a few things, concerning how we operate and how we manage our airlines. Africa is too big to, to take its space in the world's, stage of the biggest aviation brands. So it goes down to the guys who are in school right now, how are you being taught? What difference can these young aviators make when they finally take the center stage in, the real operations of an airline when you start working or something after school? The generation we have right now are the ones we saw since we're kids. The mistakes have been made. Everyone has seen them. Okay? Even you who are still in school, you know some of the issues we do face right now, but we cannot keep talking about our problems all the time. Yes, there are problems, but what makes a difference? What can we do differently, to make Africa better, and the rest of the world that is probably, suffering from the same issue. So to make that difference, bring in your expertise on board, do something different from what the previous who you found has been doing. And together, I believe African aviation, like I said, will take its name at the center stage of the world global aviation industry.
Thank you so much. I hope Africa one day they will understand, and the government will establish to understand the airlines, the benefits of airlines. And also, I would like to welcome Mustafa Hoca. Welcome, sir, to the second day of our first panel.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Hoca. If I continue with the questions, I would like to continue with Ms. Noutchemo. Could you briefly tell us and explain to us the IABA, or Young African Association Professional Association? Thank you so much. Miss, I think your mic is off.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for asking me to explain the Young African Aviation Professional Association. So, as an African from Central Africa, I have the privilege to speak perfectly English and French. So, wanting to unite the future generations of aviation professionals across the continent made me think about establishing partnerships with the 55 states, which means that the origin of IAPA has been to enable representatives from the 54 states to create a platform so that we could identify every year 5 topics with regards to Africa and give the voice to these people to say what is happening in their countries. Because I don't want to make an assumption on what should happen in Africa, because Africa has a diversity. Every country is unique. Every country has its own level of development. And I cannot know, even by traveling into these countries, unless I give the opportunity to individuals in these countries to tell us exactly how certain things are being managed. So in Africa, we suffer on the youth training. I have the opportunity to be in between the aviation stakeholders. ICAO, I was a member of the ICAO NGA program for so many years as a volunteer. I speak to ACI, I speak to IATA, I speak to all the world's organizations. So today, I know exactly what these organizations are working on. So for me to have Africa reduce the gap, the whole idea was to create an organization where I will have representatives of these 5 states, so that when I get the information, I transmit to them and I give them the opportunity to discuss directly with my contacts. So this, unfortunately, has not been able to be established smoothly because people have a misconception of what I put in place. So personally, I don't, how will I say it? I am a professional that got into the aviation industry and have the opportunity to meet with the top leaders of aviation. So when I listened to the top leaders of aviation, I found out that something was lacking. They are not planning on the succession plan of all the initiatives with regards to the world's aviation. So what I keep on ringing to them is, we should be having committees with all generations represented. So if we know that the eldest in a particular industry or field or commission is 70, in that commission, we should put people of 60, 50, 40, 30, and 20, because they will be part of the discussions, and at least we will be ensuring that we are going towards a sustainable development of the industry. So the main role that IAPA has been putting out is, if we are talking about working as an industry, promoting aviation, logically, there shouldn't be any gap. So all the information that I have, I actually stand as a bridge between the stakeholders and the future generations. So those who are currently working in the aviation industry and the younger ones who might be interested to join the industry, because there are a lot of projects. Let me give an example. I'm right now in Kazakhstan because Kazakhstan organized the first energy conference with regards to aviation. This is a topic where the whole world should be working on what are the future studies to go on the sustainable aviation fuels, what will be the technology required, what will be the orientation for the young people who are interested in aviation, who might want to contribute to the protection of the environment. So you see that to every action, there is a reaction. And unless the information is being shared, that will not be able to give this sense of orientation to the future generations. So a young child who is in college, who wants to go to university, and who wants to know how he can contribute with the future, just knowing about the fact that the world is currently in aviation thinking about protection of the environment, sustainable aviation fuels, this could give him an option of selecting in which industry he will want to get in. So when I go into these conferences to meet the people, I actually put all this network with all of you. Because be it your club, be it Ronnie that I met 2 weeks ago, be it, I mean, I'm just there to be a catalyst to promote and say, guys, this is going wrong. This is how we can do it to ensure that what we are talking about can reach down. And I have been encouraging for the past 9 years, professional organizations to invite youths, because these young people, when they get to meet the actors, the stakeholders, they will ask them questions and they will have the answers. And I keep on telling everyone that we should be thinking about aviation as an industry, aviation as an industry without borders, because if we take the pilot's eye, a pilot in the sky doesn't see the boundary of a country. So when he's flying, he doesn't know if he's flying through Turkey or through Angola or Uganda or Cameroon. No, he's just going through the sky. So the advantage that our industry is giving to us is actually what through IAPA I have been trying to put in place to tell the stakeholders, the young people, and the girls, like the women like me, that we need to save the world. When COVID came, without aviation, we wouldn't have saved the world. But this is a message that people don't take into consideration. So if we are here sitting today talking about aviation, the young people, IAPA, as I say to everyone, is a bridge between the aviation stakeholders to ensure that there will be continuity and that everyone feel concerned.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It is such a great job and opportunity to do for the youth to understand, especially for the African youth, to understand what is aviation totally, and it is the benefit to be learned in aviation. If I continue with our continue with our questions, I would like to continue with Mr. Ronnie. Mr. Ronnie, could you also briefly tell us or briefly tell the audience about Airspace Africa's contributions in aviation? Thank you so much. Mr. I think your mic is off.
Am I on now? Sorry about that. I've forgotten. You know?
No problem.
Yeah.
You can hear me right now.
Airspace Africa is an online aviation publication that provides news, research, and analysis on aviation across Africa and beyond. The platform provides a unique insight into the content aviation landscape. We examine the latest industry trends, We present many different perspectives of aviation and how it affects the region's people. Airspace Africa has contributed significantly by increasing awareness about aviation industry's impact in Africa, fostering communication and connections among the industry players, and increasing opportunities for the young individuals seeking to join the sector. We basically bridge the gap between the industry and those who want to do something about the industry. And looking at how long we have existed, this came from a point of, even we as Africa, we didn't know so much about what happens in our own industry. That gave birth to Airspace Africa. So what we're doing right now is quite a paraphernalia of so much concerning mainstream media, but for aviation. New route development, new airlines coming up, analyzing the performance of the different airlines, attending different aviation summits across Africa, and, contributing a hand just to make African aviation development better, but from the media perspective.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your contribution. Also, I would like to welcome Mary Hocha, which is our current professor in our university. I hope she can hear me. Can you hear me, Miss Mary?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much.
Welcome to our panel.
Thanks for acknowledging me. I am here.
Thank you so much. Welcome back again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If I ask the questions, there's a questions from chat asked by Mr. Mahmoud Abdullahi Hashi for Ms. Noutchemo. The question goes like this: what is the role of aviation industry in terms of economic growth in Africa, which is a development in developing countries? Thank you.
Okay, so I'm very happy that Mr. Mahmoud is asking his question, and I fly most of the time to Chad. Let me take the case of Chad. Chad is a completely landlocked country, so Chad doesn't have access to the sea. Chad solely depends on Cameroon. So the importance of developing the Chadian aviation sector will facilitate cargo movement and also the movement of people. Because the role of aviation is in a short period of time to move people and persons from one point to the other. Today I'm in Kazakhstan, which is the central of Asia. If I had to go by road, by rail, or by sea, I think I should have been here in Astana in 6 months or a year time. But because of the miracle of aviation, in 15 hours with a transit in Turkey, because I flew Turkish Airlines and had a stop in Istanbul, 6 hours to Istanbul and 5 hours from Istanbul to Kazakhstan, I'm in the center of Asia. So this is just an indication of the importance that aviation has in the development of all economies. Because if we say that aviation gives the opportunity for the movement of persons and goods, it indicates that if entrepreneurs in Chad, for example, produce articles that needs to go into a new market, the fastest means will be aviation. So aviation is key to the development of all economies because it supports the development of all other industries. So I always tell, well, I've been meeting some government heads to try to make them understand the need of rebuilding a new strategy for the development of Africa with the involvement of the young people. And also, I have been advocating for a facilitation of work permits for aviation professionals across Africa, because we find some countries where we have many more qualified Africans who are jobless. And then we find some other countries where you don't have the qualified Africans, and we are obliged to recruit out of the continent. So this is just an indication to show that if the Ministry of Tourism wants to promote its tourism, it cannot be effective if its aviation sector is not to the best, because that is the only means that can bring in tourists to visit the country. If the Minister of Industries is attracting investors to come and build industrial factories, if we don't have aviation, First, they will not be able to arrive on time. They will not be able to be sure that if they invest, they would carry their goods out to the emerging markets. So it wouldn't be productive. So aviation's role is actually, that's why I say aviation is not an industry like the other ones. Aviation is actually the pivot and the catalyst for the development of all other sectors. Because when we talk about health, for example, when we had COVID, no one knew about COVID before. So if we were to wait for the vaccines or the medicine for COVID to go through the roads and the rails and the maritime, I'm sure that some parts of the world would have disappeared. But we saw the importance of cargo, which is still aviation, saving the world. We saw countries, developed countries, supporting developing countries on supplying them with masks and all what we saw. So by this is to say that for me, I'm passionate about aviation. I discovered aviation just 12 years ago, but I'm so passionate about it that I want everyone who is passionate about aviation to join the team to say we need to make everyone understand that development goes through us. So I hope I have answered to the question of Mr. Abdullah from chat.
Yeah, you answered it greatly. I hope Mustafa Hoca have a questions. Welcome, Hoca, if you have a question.
I have a question for both guests over here. Now, how many % of African aviation sector is controlled by Africans?
Ronnie, can you give an answer?
That's an interesting. Just I get so I can get your question right. You said how many % of African aviation
sector is controlled by Africans?
Well, the truth is it's a very minimal percentage. I cannot attach a specific figure to it, but I don't think it's something more than 50%. Reason being, so 50% is too much. I don't think it's something more than that. Reason being, most of the expertise that is needed to run these airlines the way they're supposed to, Africa isn't there yet. Most of the African countries and airlines are not there yet. So they end up employing, getting employment from the other advanced countries, and this goes down to the pilots. Some of the CEOs for the African aviation companies are actually not African, and that's what I guess you're trying to justify. So it's a very minimal number of Africans who manage their own African airlines and the other, stakeholders in the African aviation industry. So it's a very small number, but hopefully, as time goes on, we shall grow and make it bigger over time.
Okay, I have another question that.
Yeah, Mustafa, before you go to your next question, I want to add to what Ronnie has said. Let's be honest, right? Africa doesn't manufacture a screw for an airline. So it is not an industry that belongs to our continent. We solely depend on the developed countries with regards to our utensil, which is the aircraft. So if we want to get an ATR, it comes from Europe. If we want to get an Airbus, it comes from Europe. If we want to get a Boeing, it comes from the US. If we want to get an Embraer, it comes from Brazil. If we want, you name the aircraft. No African country manufactures an aircraft. And we know that aviation solely depends on the landing and takeoff of an aircraft. So the airports, the airlines, or even the government authorities, we are all dependent. So 55 African states are dependent on developed countries. So this already is an indication that we cannot we cannot master the sector. So we cannot be independently owning, because there is always a need of collaboration and cooperation.
Yeah, cooperation is different than being dependent on people from outside. Now, if you are not running your own companies, aviation companies, then I don't think that you will be able to develop that aviation sector in your continent. That's the biggest problem in most areas. If your country or if your region is dependent on some other countries, you say developed countries, or over here in the world, only a couple of countries do produce their own aircraft. That's Airbus, Boeing, and I believe Russia, and some 2 or 3 countries, China. Not everyone, but the other countries, they do create a strategy to be independent, but collaboration is different. You know, independency is different. Now, Ronnie, right? Ronnie said that maybe not 50%, even 50%. Now, if your companies are being run by people other than Africans, they will think their own interest. No one will be able to, I mean, you won't be able to justify their actions because they are working for their own interest, not your interest of the society, not for the country that they are working in. I mean, you will think, I mean, you are the only person will really sacrifice something for your own people, for your own country, not from someone outside, not even me. I won't come over there and sacrifice my time or myself for your own country, I mean, for the aviation sector in your country. In order to improve that or change that destiny, it's not a destiny, matter of fact, you really need to focus on being independent. As far as I know, I'm sorry, I don't want to really get in the subject that quick, but you know, focus on youth. Young generation will be able to, you know, take it one step further, as far as I understand. Now, let me give you one example, and it's very striking example. The cigarette. What is the cost of one pack cigarette in your country? It's less than $1, right? Lot less than $1. In Australia, it's about $14, $15. In UK, it's $14. In Australia, $26 Okay, why is it? Is the labor expensive over there? No, because of the consequences of the health consequences of that cigarette. Now, they are selling that cigarette that cheap, but the treatment for cancer, lung cancer, I am a smoker as well, okay, it's very expensive. So they are losing money in one place, but they are making money in other place, okay, from other places. So that's what I want to contribute. I'm sorry if I have interrupted your conversation, but I believe I made my point, right? I believe I made my point.
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah, you do make a point, and I just wanted to add on what you've said and what Ms. Fadimatou was saying. Yes, you're very right about most of the operations and management being done by expatriates, but also, just like Ms. Fadimatou said, looking at the history of Africa and where the state of the African aviation is right now, the easiest way for Africans to learn how to manage their own aviation companies is going to be through the partnerships. I mean, it's like I've said, it's the easiest. Passively, we need to learn from these guys. We're not going to wake up one day and say we're doing it ourselves, knowing that there's no expertise that we have to push it where we want to, you know, for it to be. Like she said, all the plane manufacturing companies don't come from Africa. The smallest crew that would probably hold the flap of a wing together is not manufactured in Africa. This means we shall forever still need those other countries in our aviation operations in Africa. And this does not really mean that everything has been left, you know, to be fully managed by the expatriates. A clear example I can give you is Ethiopian Airlines. They have managed to do it very well. Ethiopian is not number one, not because they have not partnered. They partnered to a point that made them take care of themselves, like a small kid. Crawl, walk, and, you know, develop. So at the beginning stages, they invested so much in partnering with the companies that did have the expertise, the employment. 60% of the aircrafts operated by Ethiopian Airlines are on a lease basis. They do not own them. But somewhere, the world thinks all those planes are owned by Ethiopian. Now, that is the picture Ethiopian Airlines has painted to Africa and the rest of the world. So it's not like we are against the help that we're getting from expatriates now. No, we're in a process of learning. And this is in good faith. They also know they're here to make it better. When the time comes, when Africa is ready to run on its 2 feet, without, and it can never be without the help of, you know, the other side. Definitely, this is a forever partnership. In one way or the other, you will still need them. So it's a learning curve for us. It's a learning process for us. And a few years from now or more, trust me, Africa will be more than what we want it to be.
And Africa is the starting point of the civilization. And I believe one day it will prosper.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I mean, just to add, Mustafa, just to add on what Ronnie said, Africa has a long history, and its diversity. It's a clear indication on how its development is diverse. Because when you see Ethiopia, for example, that is the only African country that was not colonized, and their success in aviation, it's a close partnership with the US. So when you don't know something and you get in partnership and collaboration with somebody who knows and you become the best student, you can only bring back good results. So Africa as a whole, as I said, is 55 countries, and they are not all in a bad shape. We have North Africa, for example, the Arab countries of Africa that are very developed. I mean, Egypt Air is more than 80 years, Morocco Airlines. These are, Africa has some examples attached to the cooperation and collaboration that they had. I come from Central Africa, where we have 6 countries, and we are still lagging behind. So there is a great need and necessity to, first of all, because it's a cultural thing, Mustafa. You will not believe that in the 21st century, people, when one family member is traveling just to take a normal ticket, which in Europe, I mean, an airline, I mean, flying by air is like taking an Uber or a train, or, you know, it's just a mean of transportation. But in Africa, traveling for some families is still a world's event, where when one person get a visa, you get the whole family in buses coming to the airport to accompany. So until we bring into the minds of people that aviation is not luxury, is not a financial status or a class status, it's just a simple means of transportation, that will already bring the change. That's why, and this industry is very expensive. So in Africa, in most of the countries, we have polygamous families, where in a family you see a father that has 20 kids or 10 kids. So he cannot afford to say, oh, I'm going to pay for you to become an engineer or a pilot. That is why we are trying to bring in diplomacy into aviation, to say, I personally know that countries bring support to Africa. I know that unions bring support to Africa. The European Union, for example, puts a lot of money every year to support aviation in Africa. And I had the discussion with the general manager of the of mobility and transport of the European Union, when he was explaining to me where the money goes. And I said, that is not where your money should automatically go. Your money should first go on training the young people so that they can have the knowledge that will enable take the right decisions and build the right partnerships to build the industry in Africa. And this is me saying it because it's my belief, and I am sure that until we change the mindsets of people, then we will be able to make them understand aviation is not luxury. Aviation is not a status. No, it's a necessity. So you understand that even if we want to make it local, if you have the wrong management to implement aviation, they want to use aviation and show off and say, oh, by the way, I flew to Paris, I flew to Istanbul, and the others just look at them and like, how is an aircraft? This is what we don't want. We want to make young Africans know that aviation is for everyone. Aviation is not luxury. Aviation is just a catalyst for the development. Aviation is a means of transportation like the Uber, the taxi, the train. So this is what this is where we are still supposed to do in most of the African countries.
Thank you very much. I have a class at 20:30, but I like to add one point, and then I will leave. Back in 1920s, we start to produce our own aircraft in Turkey. In 1925, we opened our first aircraft factory in Kayseri, and we were at the beginning of 1940s. We were the third country in Europe that I mean, in aviation sector, one of the leading countries. And after Marshall Aids, you know, United States said that, well, the aircrafts you do manufacture cost you a lot. I will give you cheaper. Just close them down. And they did. They did. Now we are trying to establish our own aviation industry as well. What I mean, you know, if European Union is giving you money for the aviation, they don't want you to have your own aviation industry. That's why I believe so.
Yeah, but that is why we are open to the world, and we are working for win-win cooperation and collaboration. And I'm happy to be on this platform because Turkey is an example of a country that is collaborating with other aspects with Africa. And it will be our wish to see the cooperation more intensified, because Turkish Airlines, for example, which is one of the best company in the world, flies into most of the African countries. If I'm in Kazakhstan, it's thanks to Turkish Airlines. I'm happy to see that there is this interest of building the relationship and getting the conversation going, because if we have the right information with a real example of what has been done, then we are sure that the current and future leaders will take the right decisions for the replication of what is being done to be done in some of our African countries as well. 10 years ago, I was working with Turkish Technics for my national airline. And I remember I stopped in Istanbul to visit Turkish Technics. And there I saw, they showed me the plan of the new airport. So each time I land in Istanbul, in that airport, you know, I'm amazed because it was a vision, and I didn't even realize 10 years has gone and it's been implemented. So this is what we really want to have the young people in Africa ensure that once they have an idea and the idea is sustainable, we now go into getting the collaboration and cooperation to materialize our ideas. Ronnie has been actively working on a couple of projects, but the sad thing is, because the environment doesn't understand the importance of what he is doing, he faces challenges, and those challenges brings in frustration. So you can have a good idea, but because the environment is not receptive to what you're doing, it makes you give up. So I encouraged him when I met him to say, don't give up, because Fadi, don't give up. Until I die, I'm going to voice out for Africa. I'm going to promote the African aviation. I'm going to use all what I can have to build this partnership, collaboration, and also, most important, create the links between institutions, young professionals, and Africa, because I still believe that until the next generation has the right information, they will do the impact and the change. And aviation has no country. So it doesn't matter if you are from Turkey, from Africa, from US. We all are members of the ICAO, so the International Civil Aviation Organization. And so we are an industry of rules, processes, procedures. So it's the same everywhere. An air traffic controller in Turkey will have to say the same things like an air traffic controller in Egypt or in Uganda. So that is the beauty of our industry. And I believe that if we get these conversations going, there will be results. What I've been doing it almost alone, but there are results. So I hope that as you're going to class, we will keep this conversation going. And hopefully I might be in Turkey next week, and maybe I will meet those who are on this panel. So
hopefully, I will be here as well. And if you stop by over here somewhere, you know, Abdurrahman and Adnan, I mean, I will be glad to meet you, to talk to you face to face. These things. Thank you very much for having me. And I'm sorry I have to leave right now. Thank you,
Thank
Abdurrahman.
you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Khadija.
It's so clear. Thank you so much, Hocam.
Thank you, Hocam. Thank you, Mary Hocam.
Very well said. I think everybody made their points and understood each other correctly and perfectly, and hope that the young youth in Africa may change their mindset in an aviation. And I would like also to welcome Mr. Sumit Barat in the first panel. Welcome, Mr. Barat. And also I would love to give Abdurrahman Khalid. He would like to say a word. Welcome back, Sumit Barat, Mr. Sumit Barat.
Thank you very much. So I have been very intently listening to what Miss Fadimatou was saying, and after what she said, and that is so relevant in India also, I think there is very little that I could add on. Trust me. I was so intently listening to her and talking about the airline economics, how the whole industry is evolving, how not building an aircraft is a big challenge. And it was absolutely insightful listening to you.
Thanks so much.
I hope that someday you will come to India and you will share these insights here as well. Trust me.
Yeah, Mr. Sumit, you will be surprised, but as I said, aviation has no boundary. Right now, I have an Indian friend and brother who worked in Accra for 5 years as commercial and IT director for an airline that closed, Starbo, who is currently in Chad working on a project of a startup for an airline. And when we are talking, he's called Shankar Raman.
Okay, yeah, I've heard about him.
Yeah, so he's been working. I mean, I did my IATA diploma in airline management with him 10 years ago. And based on his capacity and intellect, I've always been attracting him to projects in Africa. And that's why I say that aviation is not an industry of country. It's an industry where we do the exchange. And one other important aspect of aviation is the technology side of it that people tend to ignore. So the world is fast growing. People are interested in new technology. The Young African Aviation Professional Association has a program called the Youth Aviation Tech Africa program, where we want the young people to think about how they can use their knowledge to do a revolution to the aviation industry than just depending on these stereotyped ancient industries in technology who keep on bringing us solutions that are very expensive. So when you look at the global picture of aviation, what I say to the rest of the world is we protect the environment because there are some challenges with the carbon dioxide emissions. But Africa, with its fast growing population, also has IT and technology, which is very developed. So today, we just need to give them the idea on how they can contribute on developing new applications with the protection of their intellectual property so that they can also be contributors to the aviation sector. We don't need in Africa to build a factory of aircrafts, no, but we have a fast growing population that needs to get the right information, the right exchanges, the right network, the right, we talk job dates. We can also go into innovating with the professional dates where students in a certain university like your club can decide to partner with some young people in some of our universities just to exchange. Because the more we get the conversations going, people are inquisitive. They want to know, they want to understand. Why is Turkish Airlines successful? Why did they do this? Why? So by answering these questions, when they will be the ones handling the countries in 5, 10, 15 years, they will know the importance of the role. So that's why my organization 9 years ago focused on the next generation, because I believe that if I'm part of the lost generation, there is something I need to leave as a legacy. It's this bridge between the aviation stakeholders and the future generations. And that's what YAPA is doing worldwide.
Very well said. Yes, very well said. Thank you, Hocam. Thank you, Ms. Fatuma, for your knowledge. I would love Mr. Abdurrahman Khalil would love to say a word. Welcome.
Yes, thank you for the information. as Anud, like you say, you are trying now to help the new generation to look forward for aviation industry. Is a whole new industry to develop in the African countries. Maybe we can do this through the schools from middle school, give them education about aviation and how it's important profitably to the country, actually, the economics of the country. Like in Turkey, Turkish Airlines help a lot of the economic in Turkey and in the world, as you know. So we can do this like in an international approach between, we can make collaboration between our university, your students, your young students. We can introduce them, motivate them, and it won't come easily, but it will take a lot of time, and we hope we will help like our African countries, because they are very hard workers, and if they started, it will be a very successful journey.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your suggestion. I hope we take that into consideration. If I ask a question from the chat, and that been asked by Mr. Berkay, is a common question for both Ms. Fatima and Ronnie. And the question is saying, do African airlines have an interest towards aviation sustainability? And if yes, what kind of action are being undertaken? I think this question is more likely to be answered by Mr. Ronnie.
Well, this really interests me because right now, 80% of my time is spent on developing different forms of aviation sustainability, especially for the African aviation sector. Now, thank you, Ms. Bakayan Akaya, for your question of do the African airlines have an interest in aviation sustainability? Yes, they do. What kind of actions are being taken? For the record, I just want to say there has not been any form of aviation sustainability carried out on this continent as far as the aviation industry is concerned. Apart from sustainable aviation fuel, that every other airline in Africa is talking about, even those who have never used it yet. The latest this week was Kenya Airways. I don't know if you read it on the news. Operated their first environmentally sustainable flight from Nairobi, I think, to Amsterdam. It was fully operated on SAF. Because under the sky, it's like a competition they're getting involved in. About a year ago, I did come up with a proposal that was dubbed mitigating the impact of aviation on climate change. And in my idea, I considered quite a number of factors. I do know the kind of aviation in Africa, where I come from. If you look at Flight Radar 24 today, I think if you focus enough, you would count the total number of aircraft hovering over Africa. So how did I come up with this project? I presented to a panel of aviation leaders and other stakeholders about the same topic of how we can mitigate the impact of aviation on climate change. I sat down for all that time, researched so much, and came up with a tree planting project. I called this project the $1 tree planting campaign. Why did I call it the $1 tree planting campaign? For every passenger carried by an airline, can the airline plant a tree on behalf of that passenger to help offset the emissions for that specific flight? There are so many systems out there. If you took, for example, a flight from Entebbe, Kampala, my country, to Ethiopia on a Boeing 737, the emissions per passenger is about 13,600 kilograms of carbon emitted just by this passenger. Remember, the heavier the aircraft, the more emissions. So why did I bring it out that way? I was trying to create a link in the most financially friendly way of how, for once, Africa can play a part in aviation sustainability development. This tree that you're planting won't just be responsible for the carbon emissions alone, but you're improving livelihoods of different Africans. Families' lives are going to get better. Employment opportunities are going to be created just through this tree planting exercise. Like Ms. Fadimatou said earlier on, I don't want to feel like my idea is in the wrong place. but I think my idea is in a place where not many people have understood the importance of it yet. Recently, I actually shared a document with her. Now we're trying to look at, if like I talked about Flight Radar 24 before, if you look at that map, most of the congested airspace is not in Africa. It's Europe, the US, Asia, Australia. So how do we convince Air France that operates 750 flights to Africa in a week to plant trees in Africa for the carbon emissions for all those 750 flights? How do we convince British Airways to do that? How do we convince United Airlines, Emirates, Qatar, Turkish Airlines? How can I convince you to come and plant trees in Africa? Turkish flies to my country about 4 times a week. Okay. Now, the issue with the African airlines is this. Like I told you before, they're not seeing the importance of this. Sustainability and climate change is not something that has seriously been taken, in Africa. This is treated like a business. It's a transaction between two different parties. So involving these guys to undertake and to embrace the different sustainability ideas that we're bringing on board is going to involve a lot of sensitization to the industry. One of the things I'm doing right now through my project I've written, which I've shared with quite a number of key people in the industry, I'm trying to look for a pilot fund that can give me the opportunity in meeting the African airlines in all the 54 countries one-on-one, doing a presentation about this project, explaining the benefit to the airline. Because, we're getting to a place where people are so conscious about sustainability. Yes, you're flying. You're the biggest airline in Africa. But what is your contribution to the environment? There are passengers who will only want to be associated with airlines that are environmentally friendly. What is your flying group program? You cannot talk about sustainable aviation fuel. Not even the passengers, even some airline CEOs in Africa and all that large have no idea how sustainable aviation fuel is manufactured, apart from the fact that it's actually expensive. So my idea was about how do I bring that passenger on board in Africa who flies once in 2 years, who flies once in 5 years, to plant one tree, which is an equivalent of $1, without having to feel financially deprived of the money they have saved for so long to take a flight in their lifetime. And all that goes back to mitigating the impact of aviation on climate change. Imagine planting all the 700, all the trees on behalf of an airline like Air France for the 750 flights they have towards Africa. Imagine having a huge chunk of land in Africa with all those trees, and you're calling this is Air France forest. This is not only helping France. Air France will take off in Europe, but the emissions, like Ms. Fadimatou said, there are no borders in the air. So it can affect a family in Africa, in Turkey, anywhere in the world. So that whole goal is a clear picture and information to all of us, in this meeting today. Yes, they are interested. There are methods we have on board, but we need to invest more time in sensitizing the African airlines, in trying to participate in the different, sustainability drives. And I also encourage all of us today. You've seen so many of my posts on LinkedIn about the $1 tree planting campaign. We need to get on board. This is not something I'm going to do alone. We talked of partnerships earlier on. I'm glad I'm speaking to, a big number of university students today who have dreams of becoming aviators in the future. But my question to you is, would you plant a tree for your dream? Would you sacrifice that $1 to plant a tree somewhere just to show and portray your concern about the flag-green project that we are pushing in Africa and the world at large? So to answer your question, we are so much interested in sustainability concerning aviation. We are just looking to work with the right partners to give us the push for the project to take off. Trust me, 5-10 years from today, we shall have over 5 million trees planted across Africa and the world at large. And this will be the first of its kind to represent in the most physical way the importance, the usefulness of the aviation industry to the environment itself and mitigating climate change.
Thank you very much. Well said. Also, it's our really pleasure and lucky to have you there, Mr. Ronnie. I hope we will take sustainability in every aspect in our life, not only in aviation. If I also continue with my question into Ms. Fadimatou Noutchemo, Ms. What is your prediction about future of aviation industry? Thank you very much.
Okay, just to specify, is it globally or for Africa?
You can mention in every aspect, to the both aspects, mainly do in Africa, if you would like.
Okay, so we just returned from the International Civil Aviation Organization General Assembly last October in Montreal. And when I see the progress of innovation with regards to aviation sustainability, sustainable aviation fuels, OEMs building new engines to reduce the carbon emissions, when I look at the policies and I see the current situation of Africa, we still have a long way to go. So at the same time, COVID has come in to regulate the situation for everyone. So what we are predicting for the future is, if we try to get our governments involved, and if we try to match up the developed countries' governments with African countries, we can bridge the gap for the sustainable development growth of the aviation industry in Africa. Because if I look at what it can cost to buy a brand new aircraft, most of our governments won't have the funds available. But when I also see that most of the developed countries make donations to our African countries to help them, my tendency is to tell those that are developed with regards to the aviation sector to say, we don't need you to help us build a road or a dam for water somewhere. We want you to build a win-win relationship where we become your market for the sale of your aircraft that you're manufacturing, but at the same time, we get the training of our people to be able to manage. Because if we go in a win-win relationship where people are selected transparently, are trained appropriately, and given the means to be able to manage the sector, it will automatically grow. So if we have a replica of 20 Ethiopian airlines in the 55 African states, that's going to recruit young people. That's going to get opportunities for the jobless people, because Ethiopian Airlines doesn't only fly in Addis, it flies to all our countries on a daily basis. So as it flies, it creates jobs opportunities. It brings it, because we are in the spirit of the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, which wants to bring Africans united, which wants to promote the intracontinental trade. So my vision about the future is that if we go on the global sustainable aviation goals, which brings in no poverty as number 1, or which brings in partnerships as number 16, I don't remember exactly. If we go into the same global sustainable aviation, the global sustainable goals for 2030, it means that in 7 years, automatically, if we appropriately get the win-win partnership between the developed world and the developing world, then as an industry, we will be capable of bridging the gaps, which means that if European Union or the US or Turkey wants to make a donation in Africa, we don't want donations in things that doesn't bring us immediate impact. We want a strategy, a 5-year strategy, where Turkey will say, with regards to Africa, we are ready per region to train 5 pilots and to give them the opportunity to work 1 year in Turkish Airlines, Turkish group, to see how we have done it, and then get them back into the companies existing in their countries, so that they could be the seeds who will be able to say, no, I was in Turkey and I saw that they don't do like this, but they do like that. So I dream of a situation like that, where the cooperation between countries, the diplomatic aspects of countries will be able to focus more on aviation and give opportunities so that the possibilities for young Africans in transparency will be for them to be able to get into the industry, because they will become the messengers. You know, when I see what I do across the world, I got no limits. And this helps me, because if tomorrow Ronnie tells me, hey, Fadi, I have my project in Uganda and I need to meet XYZ in the industry that I know, it's direct contact. So this is what we want to see as an industry. We want to get not only talks, but we want to go from talks to actions. And with this, we are sure that the industry will bridge the gaps and that African countries will be able to grow.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very, very well said. I think we take this into consideration. Everybody in the meeting understood Ms. Noutchemo's point. Due to the ticking of our time, we only left within 9 minutes. I would love to ask you the last two questions, if you let me. I would love to go first with Mr. Ronnie. As you see, Mr. Ronnie, in our session, there's a student from a different countries, different nationality, and also we can say different universities. What is your advice to them to become successful in aviation? And please, let's take time into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Young Africans looking to participate in the aviation sector, they need to learn as much as they can, and they need to learn all they can. Take opportunities for internships, form networks, form partnerships with industry players that add value to their careers. It requires focus, patience, decision-making, and pitfalls, so being proactive assists in acquiring knowledge and adding value in all aspects of any institution. But the biggest and most valuable thing I'll advise any young aviator to take seriously, in this day and age, is form the connections. I'm not meeting Miss Fadimatou here again by mistake. We met in Ethiopia, didn't plan to meet each other, but I walked up to her, I introduced myself, said hi. And here we are today. I can now confidently approach her because she knows me and I do know her. And the end goal is, these are people who want to help. But for you to get that help, you need to reach out. No impact will be made if you keep quiet on probably a very brilliant idea you have that would be a change maker in the aviation industry. So try and network as much as you can, build a brand for yourself, get active on LinkedIn, attend aviation events, and trust me, it's a matter of time, you'll get where you want to be.
Thank you very much for your advice. I think the young youth in this meeting will note that. And if I ask the same question or last question for Miss Fadimatou Noutchemo, also there's the same question. In this session, there are students from different countries, nationalities, and also universities. Also, what is your advice to become successful in aviation industry? Thank you. I think Miss, your mic is again off.
Yeah, I'm first of all very happy to see that many young people take time to listen to us. The International Civil Aviation Organization gives an opportunity to young people worldwide. It's 193 countries, and every 3 years they organize an innovation fair. And the innovation fair is a platform that gives the opportunity to young aviation professionals to present what they might have thought as an idea that could change the aviation industry. So as you are in school, if you have an idea, I will advise you. I've dropped my number on the message group, my WhatsApp. If you have an idea, if you think about, because aviation is all about innovation. It's all about what you think. And if today you're passionate and you're in school, never minimize your idea, because the Wright brothers, when they thought about starting an aircraft, I'm sure everybody in that environment told them they were crazy, but today we can go from one point to the other thanks to their crazy idea. So today you sit in the exact position where, as students, you have questions, and I'm sure you challenge sometimes what is happening in the world. So that voice, my advice to you is that idea you have, or that thought you have about how things could be done should be heard. So, as I said, the Young African Aviation Professional Association is not only a platform for Africans. I'm actually Fadi worldwide. I mean, now today I'm in Kazakhstan, tomorrow I will be in Turkey, I'm everywhere, and I know the aviation stakeholders. So it doesn't matter how small your idea can be. If you think you have a message to pass to anyone and you doubt on yourself, just ring out to me, tell me who you want to meet, and I will make sure that that professional talks to you directly, because that is what I tell them. I say we cannot be professionals without thinking about the succession plan. So if we go into a sustainable aviation development, we definitely integrate the fact that you students of today are the leaders of tomorrow. So you need to be you need to be aligned with what is happening now, so that it will give you the opportunity to brainstorm on what we are doing now. Maybe what we are thinking is not exactly what in your own turn will be necessary. But if you are not part of the conversations, we will still say things with assumptions and it will not work for you. So you should stand up. You are not just students. You are human beings that think, and this industry is innovative. So I see Khadija smiling. So I know, Khadija, this is an industry where we have few women. So we stand up to say we women should voice out. And if we think about something, please feel free to contact me. I mean, in this event in Kazakhstan, for example, I was with Mr. Nene, who is the chairman of Pegasus. That is a direct contact. So tomorrow, it doesn't matter if I'm in Turkey or not in Turkey. I can organize a meeting for you to talk to them if you want to talk to them, if you don't know them. So if you want to become ambassadors for your country, to partner with Africa, I mean, I would be happy to support you, to tell Turkish Airlines, please give these young students tickets to come and spend 1 week in Uganda, in Cameroon, so that they can share their experience. They can talk about their countries. They can talk about their school. So this is the way. We cannot have the opportunity to fly easily and not use it to be ambassadors of our industry. So for me, well, you can see I'm passionate. I'm passionate at all levels. I got my IATA award in Seoul. So I was with 1,000 professionals of the aviation and tourism sector, and my message was strong. I told them, you cannot succeed in this industry if you don't involve the next generations. And we don't need to sit and wait for them to come for us. We also need to rise up. Like this initiative, I really applaud the organizers. I really support your initiative. We should do this more. We should be able to organize a congress tomorrow of youths in Africa, youths in Europe, youths in Asia, youths in Latin America. We need to do that because we are in an industry that has the aircrafts. So these stakeholders, if they are true to themselves, can facilitate gatherings in any of the countries where we can go meet face to face, talk, and make petitions because there is need for change.
Thank you so very much. We really proud of you to have you and people like you, and we would love to make an association and contribution with our club and with everybody in this meeting. Thank you again, and I would love. This was the ending of our first session in our second day of our panel, and I would love to thank Mr. Ronnie and Mrs. Noutchemo. Thank you, Mr. Ronnie and Mrs. Noutchemo, for your contribution and attendance. It was a really good pleasure and experience to have you there, and we would love to make a continuous contribution and with you. Thank you very much again. And the last session of our panel will be at 9, which is contributing a North America or Asia session will start. So keep up with aviation and aviation industry and this meeting within 5 minutes. Thank you very much again, everybody in this meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again.
Have a nice day. So much. You're welcome.
Thank you. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
much.
Miss.
Bye.
Mr. Alejandro, welcome. Mr. Sumit, welcome. Mr. Fabian, also welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
We will have our moderators, Khadija and Khawla, for this session. Welcome, Khadija and Khawla.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Dear panelists, lecturers, friends, as IGU Aviation Club, we are here to run our panel's second session in the second day, namely North America and Asian session with Mr. Sumit Barat, an aviation expert from India, Mr. Fabian Gomez, aviation expert from Mexico, Mr. Mukul Sharma, head of planning and strategy of Air India, and Mr. Alejandro Rodriguez, head of operations of Cubana. Me, Khadija Saleh, and my friend Khawla Jamal Ali will be in the moderation of this session. So shall we start? Okay. So my first question is going to be with Mr. Sumit Barat, who is an aviation expert. Who is Sumit Barat? How did he reach the title of the aviation expert?
I'm a professional business manager, and I've been hearing, I joined this session at the beginning. So I'm a little veteran. So I've joined the aviation industry in 1992. And I worked in aviation till 2017 in various roles, primarily at the airport operations and customer service. Then I managed a ground handling company, and a Turkish company, ground handling company in India called Çelebi was my competitor. And then in 2017, I moved to a new industry. And during my time in aviation, I worked for airlines like Qatar Airways, Donata, and Royal Brunei Airline, Kingfisher Airline. And all the airline that was mentioned has been my customer. So some way or the other, I have served them or I have worked for them. And then in 2017, I joined a bus company. It's a bus and rail operator globally. It is a UK-based company called First Group PLC. And I was heading their business in India. And then COVID stuck and my contract ended. I joined the government in India, the Airport Authority of India, as a cargo in the cargo division. And then again went back to the bus business for a capital provider. So today I work for a company called Green Cell Mobility, which is not directly in aviation for the last 1.5 years, but we run buses, around 1,200 buses across India. And I can tell you something from my experience that the skills are transferable, which I want to impress upon to the young generation, that the skills that you build in aviation, in the airport, customer service, ground handling, are also transferable and can be used in many other industries like cargo, like logistics, urban transit, which is bus. So that is what I have been. I've worked in various roles. And so Sumit Barat is a professional manager who loves his life. I'm an avid reader. I give lectures in a lot of colleges in India. I've lived in multiple geographies. I've lived and worked in India. I've lived and worked in the Middle East, in Singapore. I've worked briefly in United Kingdom, United States as well. So, and I'm married. I've got a wife. I've got 2 daughters. And that is about me.
Thank you, and it's nice to get to know you, sir. The next question is going to start with Khawla now.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for all the panelists who have joined us today. Thank you very much for every experience that you're going to be sharing with us today. So my question will be going to Mr. Alejandro Rodriguez. And first, I would like to thank you for coming for this panel again. And I would like to know, who is Alejandro Rodriguez? Like, how did you reach the title of head operations, and what status in life are you today?
Hello, as you said, my name is Alejandro Rodriguez. I'm from Cuba. I studied aeronautical career in 1998. Motor and fuselage engine, and fuselage of our aviation. Then I studied operation manager, and I loved that so much. I am still working like operation manager yet. What can I say more? I really am impressed to be with you. Thank you for inviting me for the conference. Any question? Another question?
No, this will be it. Thank you very much. We'll go to the next questions and then we'll come back to you. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Fabian Gomez. Who is Mr. Fabian Gomez? How did he reach the title of the cargo sales manager? Please.
Sir, I think you are on mute.
So sorry, guys. I have some issues over here with my camera and with my microphone. But anyway, I'm here. Yes, I'm Fabian. Hello. Hi. Nice to see you all. Yes, I started my career in logistics 89 something, 87, 88, starting in the warehouses at Fraport in Frankfurt, doing some pallets and stuff like that. And I discovered my dream, my passion for the logistics side. As I see, and as I was hearing in the before with the African stuff, we were talking too much about passengers and everything. I'm much more related into the cargo side. I don't know if you don't like that, or if you know, I will be talking about cargo. Is that okay for you guys?
Yes, it's okay. Please tell us about it.
Because my career started in 2008 over here in Mexico, starting with the freight forwarders. I haven't been working for the freight forwarders in Germany so far. I was working all the time for GSAs and airlines. So my biggest background is air freight, and always working for air freights, for airlines and GSAs. So once I was here in Mexico, I started the career with freight forwarding business. But anyhow, that's me. I'm 54 years old. I am since 2008 here in Mexico. Right now I'm in Guadalajara because I went to Guadalajara for Air Canada. I was one of the direct employees from Air Canada and was doing the sales coverage for the Pacific area over here. So, but this story went away. I discovered Air Canada was not the best place for me. So I'm out of that business. I'm now trying to get back to Europe, and I hope to be there again in the next couple of months, maybe by the end of the year. Again, my career started at the airport, and I started on a very low level. I started with Delta Airlines cleaning aircrafts, and it was there exactly where I discovered my passion for the airlines. And I said to myself from that time, well, I don't want to be a cleaner all the time, but I needed to learn from the very first step until the last ones, the next steps into the airline and how to see and to discover that new world for me. And I was studying something completely different. I was in the engineers area, but anyhow, I stayed with the airlines, and I, yeah, since 2000 exactly. Since 2000, I was much more related to do the certifications for air traffic management and stuff like that, because I don't want to be just helper, which I would like to be someone much more educated into that area, and that's what I do. Since then, I am here right now, as I said, in Mexico. I am my 15th year now here. My career in general is 33 years with airlines and freight forwarding and GSAs. So 33 years, I guess it's a lot. It's a lot to tell. It's a lot to discover. And I guess when you first come the first time to the airlines and to the air freight, and when you discover that this is something new, something great for you, you will stay there, no matter what you have done before, no matter what you have studied before, because it's a passion. It's something that you will discover. It will trigger something in you, and you will stay here, even though it's sometimes disgusting. It's sometimes very hard, but at the end, you discover that's what you like to do, and you like the international flavor, and you like everything what's around that. And in my special case, after starting with Delta Airlines as a cleaner, I said to myself, I don't want to be a cleaner all the time, and my passion was to be a cargo sales manager someday, and that's what I did. So that's more or less the answer for my first question.
Thank you for answering. It was a really nice story how you told us. Thank you for sharing your story about from an engineer to an aviation manager, cargo sales in specific. Thank you for answering the question.
No problem.
For the next question, we'll go back to Mr. Alejandro and Mr. Rodriguez. Like, what's the key to become like consistent or best in the career that we are right now? What's the key for students like us to become the best in, for example, if someone wants to be a head of operations, what are the key points for that?
Is first of all to have a love it from this profession, aeronautical profession, and to can you repeat again, please? I don't understand very good, very well there.
Okay. For example, let's say I want to be head of operations. So what are the things that I should do as a student now? In the future, when I want to be head of operations, what are the things that I should do? Main things.
I don't understand very well.
Alejandro, ¿qué es lo que le dirías a ellos para que ellos se mantengan, digamos, interesados para poder seguir su positivos y bien en este rubro?
¿Para mantenerse?
Sí, para desarrollar su carrera en esta parte. ¿Qué es lo que le dirías?
Study very much, capacitate every day, take more love for the profession, and I don't know. Sorry, I'm very nervous now.
No problem, no problem.
My English goes from my head now. But study first of all, study and discipline, love, passion. Good luck, exit. I'm sorry.
No problem. Of course, no problem. Thank you very much for the answer. And thank you also, Mr. Fabian, for helping us with the conversation. So we'll go to the next question with Khadija.
Yeah, okay. My next question is going to be directed to Mr. Barat. What is the key to become consistent at the best in the career, in your opinion?
See, there are multiple things. I would first of all, I found Mr. Fabian's story very inspiring. So I kind of liked it because, you know, I have not worked for Fraport, but I have worked for Donata and I work for WFS and
more or less.
ground. So I know exactly where you come from, and I have a huge appreciation for the work that cargo and freight forwarder community does for the industry. So coming back to your question, one, the young generation, most important, and I do a lot of recruitments, you know, at various levels, from entry levels right up to managers I've hired. One has to be very curious, and one has to be very willing to work hard. You know, one can be very talented, I could be very intelligent, but if I'm not willing to work hard, in aviation, it is consistency. In whatever you see, every flight has to depart on time. The product is very perishable. So once the aircraft is gone, the product is gone. You don't have the space left. Security is something that you cannot compromise. Safety is something that you cannot compromise. Customers have a lot of choice. So customer service is very important. So whichever function you choose, you could choose to be an operations manager, a customer service manager, a cargo manager, a sales manager, or a ground dispatcher. One should be willing to put in efforts. Should love the profession. Like they say in aviation, you don't go to a job. It is it is kind of a passion. So every day, and you don't work in the day. You don't work in the nights. You work in shifts, because airports in our parts of the world work 24 hours, unlike some other parts of the country. So there are three. It is a match of skill, it is a match of attitude, and it is a match of knowledge. Until there's a perfect balance of all these three things, and once you have it, you can excel. Because we nowadays we hear of the word globalization, all these things. In aviation, these things existed much long before, you know. Like Mr. Fabian started his career in 1988-89. Globalization existed then. So in aviation, to be successful, one has to be in love with the profession, with skills, knowledge, and attitude.
I totally agree with everything you said. That is true. I have to be more curious and learn more about the path that I chose for myself. Thank you for answering. What about you, Mr. Gomez? What do you think is the key to become a consistent at the best
Look,
career?
From the student standpoint, I mean, first of all, most of the students are pretty young, just you know, taking the first steps in the professional career. And it's always a thing. You don't know exactly what kind of profession you will choose, and if that what you choose will be the best development point for you and your families. So it's always a thing that I guess it's complicated. I know that. Taking maybe the last part of the last question. What will be important to get a cargo sales manager or director whatsoever, and that's what I wrote in my sentences. It's a consequence. If you do everything in a consistent way, professional, and the engagement is always above, to become whatever title and whatever important job description in your life will be a consequence. But what would you need to do? I mean, first of all, you need to love what you do. You need to love what you do, and you need to, you know, pass many drawbacks, and you know, and never lose your passion at the end. Your commitment must be on the highest level possible, and the commitment to yourself, something that you will manage, and something what you will be under control of. I mean, you cannot allow anyone else to steer your future. you need to be on the driver's seat. So this is, I guess, one of the most important things. The consistency will come anyway, because once you start the business, you cannot just say, okay, I will be 2 or 3 hours off because the plane will not be waiting for you. Like the speaker before. Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Sumit.
Sumit. It's this kind of business is like a perishable business. If you don't act and if you don't react quickly, the flight is gone. It will not be waiting for you. So you need to be very hands-on. And as I said, you need to be very, very reliable. And everything what you say will be counted on, because you will be part of the chain. Yes. Sorry. Okay, but at the end, never lose your path and what you learn, your skills to improve your work day, everything what's important in your life, in your path. You decide which way to go at the end of the day. Maybe after 2 days or 2 years of studying, you decided that the aircraft or the industry itself is not something for you, but you will discover that day after day. And as I said before, you need to fall in love with your career. If you don't do that, better start doing or starting something else.
Vocation.
Yeah, thank you for the answer, Mr. Fabian Gomez. Hopefully all the students and all the audience here got as much information as they did. Thank you for giving us the key. I would like to welcome Habiba Hoca. She's the head of aviation management in our university. Welcome to the panel and thank you for attending.
We'll be going to the next question, back to Mr. Alejandro. Could you tell us what do Cubana, like the company that you're in, contribute for aviation? And I would like to kindly request Mr. Fabian if you could help us in some places for translation.
No problem.
Thank you very much in advance. And for Mr. Alejandro, what do you think Cubana, your company, gives or contributes to the aviation industry?
Cubana, now we are not flying. We are not fleet active now, enabled. But in the past, we contributed to the industry. In years ago, we trained personnel from Latin America for pilot, technician. But now we are in a like off in the industry, because we have not fleet flying. We are no airplanes. We are just in share code and chartering some flight. But in the past, we have a school here in Havana that training some pilots from different countries of Latin America, technician. But now we are.
Let me maybe explain a bit to the rest, Alejandro, because I was talking to you before. I was talking to Alejandro a couple of days ago, and I know quite a bit about the Cubana history. I mean, right now it's a quite difficult environment in Cuba. There is no much money left for development of the airline itself. Cubana right now has some issues with clearinghouse and stuff like that. So the contribution right now to the world of Cubana is not that big at the moment. It can change. It can change. It has all something to do with the political environment of Cubana. But at the end, right now, much more people are, not working every day. They don't have flights every day. They have some trainings, of course, and stuff like that. But Cubana right now is not on his best level. So that's something that I guess Alejandro would like to tell you.
Thank you, Fabian. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hopefully, the company is going to get into better levels in the future.
Yes, I
hope.
guess.
Yes. My next question is going to Mr. Sumit Barat. What is or what do you think the green cell mobility, does it have any contributions in the aviation industry? What do you think about it?
Green Cell Mobility is a clean tech company. It is into electric bus. So we run around 1,001 electric bus. Now, one of the reasons I moved from aviation ground handling to fleet management, transportation, was I had built skills and I wanted to try my skills onto a different industry. And see, when you work for an industry for 25, 30 years, you become very comfortable. You get into a comfort zone. But I was building skills. So one fine day, I was wondering, am I doing good because everybody's a friend, customer is a friend, competitor is a friend, regulator is a friend, or is it because of my skills? So I took that courage, and I was on my midlife crisis. So I took a courage and I joined a bus company. Trust me, when you work in aviation, you build so much skills so that you work in different functions, in different environments, in different cultural settings. You are language neutral, your culture neutral. It helps you. So that was the primary reason why I moved to the bus business. And also the bus business is very similar to the aviation business. Here you fly aeroplanes, and here you run bus. You basically transport an individual or a person or a passenger or a tourist from point A to point B. The skill sets are similar. The bus has to leave on time. There has to be customer service. There has to be safety. There has to be security. So we also do passenger transportation in the aviation, in the airports, but we are a bus company. But prior to this, I have worked for various airline, ground handlers, airport operations departments, where we contributed in a very big way to the country's growth. Aviation is an economic enabler. Like cargo is a leading indicator of the economy. Similarly, aviation is an enabler of the economy. Does that answer your question?
Thank you for answering. You answered it very well. Thank you for the information. My next question is going to be Mr. Fabian Gomez. Could you briefly tell us about Air Canada Cargo's contributions in aviation, please?
Well, as I was explaining to the crowd before, I'm not anymore with Air Canada, but I had a very great experience with them. I started doing work for for Air Canada through a GSA, Network Cargo Services. And well, I'm not anymore with Air Canada, but still I can tell you that Air Canada has more than 75 years of in that industry. The growth of Air Canada is pretty strong. They started after COVID to step more deeper into the cargo side. Right now they have different freighters, and they will become even more and new freighters, 777s and aircrafts like that. Right now they have pretty much a good growth in Europe. They will be very consistent and present in Asia. They will have and use different aircraft types for that. But at the end, I mean, they're still growing, and as I said, they're trying to get own stuff in different countries and destinations, just to make a better feel to or match to the customers and to be much more present. That's what they do. I mean, since I'm not anymore with them, what I'm doing is right now working in the cargo scene, trying to be a professional and trying to be someone who can, help other ones to grow and to develop own business. So that's what I do. So, but for the external side, that's what I can tell you.
It was the perfect answer. Thank you for it.
We'll go back to Mr. Alejandro. What do you think aviation will be in the future? Like, how do you think aviation will be in some years forward?
Aviation, for the advance of technology, maybe green energy for the future, electrical airplanes, maybe low emission of CO2 for the most. I see very well that.
I mean, based on the Cuban development for the world, I guess we need to wait until Cuba will be much more liberated somehow and much more present. I don't know if from that country prospect we can count on too much development. I guess there will be perhaps some conjunctions, some, something different for them. Cubana itself, I don't see them too much growing and giving some, different pushes to the rest of the world. So I guess it will be the opposite. If the world starts doing something different, Cuba will, of course, take advantage about that. But to get some insights and, something different from Cuba will be very difficult. That's why.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you very much for answering, for both of you, Mr. Fabian and also Mr. Alejandro. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So, Mr. Sumit Barat, what are your predictions about the future of the aviation industry?
Absolutely stunning. Trust me. Yeah, absolutely stunning. Because the way the world is shrinking today, because of globalization, there are companies that are building factories where the tax structure is efficient. They're buying raw material where it is cheap. They are transporting labor. They are selling goods where the yields are high. Plus, a country like India, it is growing. Today, we are the third largest aviation market in the world. Having said that, also a country like India is building roads. Today, some of the points which was being served by airline are also being served by rails and also being served by the roads. There are two large cities in this country. One is Delhi and Bombay. Delhi is the capital, the political capital of the country, and Bombay is, I'll give you an example. And Bombay is the financial, commercial capital of the country. If you fly between Delhi and Bombay, it takes around 1.5 quarter to 2 hours, around 1,300 kilometers. Today, they have built a road. That road connects Delhi and Bombay in less than 12 hours. It's an expressway. So it depends how you see it. Do you see it as a competition or do you see it as an enabler? So, and having taken that thought, aviation will grow exponentially. In a country like India, whilst we're the third largest aviation market in the world, only 3 to 4% of the people in the country fly. Imagine a country of 1.3 billion people. This number grows at whatever percentage. The amount of inventory, the amount of airport infrastructure, the amount of aircraft, the amount of employment that would be generated. It is humongous. But the real question is the next generation ready for it? Are they building the skills? I always tell people there is no dearth of jobs. There are no dearth of job seekers as well. But the dearth is when there is no employability. Today, you can hire somebody from the college, but by the time they start delivering value, it takes time, So aviation has a fantastic future, and there is sustainability. So it depends how you see it, how the political leadership of a country deals with the challenges, how they vision things, and how they make those investments, how they create infrastructure. Those would, like, what is relevant for India might not be relevant for an African country or might not be relevant for an American country, but it is all very country specific. So what Europe and North America has been through is what we would be going through in the next couple of years.
Well, that's a relief then, and it's a good thing to know that India is getting better in this aviation industry, especially after you told us it's going through a hard time in the first session. What about you, Mr. Gomez? What are your predictions about the future of the aviation industry?
Well, the future is still bright enough. All the airlines have the same, aim, the same points to deliver. I mean, airlines have made important investments and have bought some newer and bigger aircrafts. Also, freighters, or have converted some passenger aircraft into freighters. So that means that we will have more space, more volume to fill with also with passengers and cargo, of course. The bigger demand has come up or will come up, and in my opinion, there will not be enough skilled staff to cover the needs of the industry. So we need to count on you guys. You need to prepare yourself. You need to study, to learn from the bottom on everything what's important, because as Sumit says, there will be a bigger demand. Yes, of course, but there will not be enough people to handle that demand. And of course, artificial intelligence and everything what's going on, it will be something what can help us in the future. But at the end, we need hands-on people. We need people who, understand the business and get the feeling of the entire thing and be there. I mean, it's not only, not everyone can be a manager. That's for sure. Not everyone can be a manager. We need some, normal co-workers. We need some supervisors. We need all kind of different levels, because as I said, not everyone can be a manager, not everyone can be a director. We need people that guides us. We need leaders, and the leaders will be you. And I mean, it's not important if it's if India is having a huge investment or huge growth, which is very nice and great, and I hope it will be and stay that way. But all the other countries, like the potential before, like the African stuff and the African people, they will have a growth as well. Europe, Asia, South America, North America, even smaller islands, they will have a potential growth. But at the end, we will need to have specialized staff, people with the experience. But before we come to the experience, we need to have skilled people, and then the experience will come after. But anyhow, we need to count on you guys. This is one of the important universities. You're doing that here, and this is a very nice stuff. It's a very nice occupation. I don't know if many universities are doing the same. I mean, such a platform will give you guys, especially, some more insights and some more interesting point of views that will give you enough power and enough commitment to yourself to stay in that area. And afterwards, you can decide whether you specialized in, I don't know, in maybe, I don't know, operation, flight planning, cargo planning, whatsoever. There are so many places, so many niches in that market that you can develop and you can discover for you guys. You need to do a deep dive and see what's important for you. But that's the points. It's a combination of what's the industry demanding and what can universities and other institutions give us to cover that demand. So it's a mixture.
Thank you for complimenting us. Our group is working very hard to assure you that you're going to get the staff that is working hard for you guys. And we want to make sure that the aviation industry is going to go a step further and not disappoint you all. Thank you for answering.
Yes, on top of that, you need not to forget the aircraft or the airlines itself is just one tool. We have ships, we have trucks, we have trains, we have all kind of methods to support the worldwide demand. But especially the airline, it's a definitely very specialized area where we need some special skills. That's for sure.
I will add on here, if you may permit. See, when we talk about aviation, it does not mean only airline. There is airline, there is airports, there are aircraft manufacturing companies, there are spare manufacturers, there are catering companies, there are duty free. There are multitude. And the best thing is that when you take an aviation course, if you're interested in aviation, you build skills that will help you get a job. If you are only seeking job, if you're looking for, and those skills are welcomed in every industry. For example, you're into yield management, you can get into a hotel also. If you're into sales, you can be into cargo sales, you can be into holiday sales, you can be into tour sales, you can work for a travel agency, you can work for a cruise liner. So all these are allied industries. You can be selling incentives, meeting, which they call MICE. So aviation is something which you take I think in the last conversation, Miss Fadimatou was there, and she was telling that she did airline management in the year 2000. I did airline diploma in airline studies in 1996. All the 4 courses that I took is relevant across all industries. I did cargo marketing, which was handy when I was selling passenger sales also. So aviation is not restricted only the airline. Aviation is something that is huge. You become culture neutral. I worked in Donata and where we were working on flights where we had team of 5 people from 5 different countries. So imagine how exciting it is, how much you are respectful for a different culture, how much cultural neutral you are. So my humble request to the young generation is be prepared to work hard, build skill. Their future is limitless. Trust me.
Absolutely.
We'll make sure to do just that. Yeah, that is true. The aviation industry is so big and it requires different skills in every other section in it. Thank you for answering and giving us advice.
Thank you very much for the panelists for answering the questions brilliantly. We'll continue with Mr. Alejandro. Mr. Rodriguez, sorry. What do you think is the challenge for aviation in Cuba? What do you think are the challenges of aviation in your country, in Cuba? Like if someone wants to be an aviator there, what are the challenges they're going to face?
The aviation industry in Cuba, for example, airports. There are several licenses. At this time, the challenge for the aviation industry in Cuba is to provide efficient aviation and airport service to different foreign airlines. Try to raise their quality standard to rise to the world level. Develop strategies to care for the environment. For example, we operate other company, foreign company here in Cuba, airports, and we try to get them good quality of service in custom, in handling, information, aeronautical information. That's the challenger for the aeronautical in Cuba now.
Yes, I guess adding some comments to Alejandro, I guess Cuba will have a different setup of challenges. So we may need to wait until this country develops itself unless they will be able to develop others and new things. And what Alejandro said, they need to come back to a quality level where everything should be then much better, and the development will be, more plain and more, guaranteed. Right now, everything is pretty much vague, somehow not secure. So at this time, and we love Cuba. I have been there many times, and I know the people over there. All people are, skilled and somehow trained and studied and everything. But there are not that much aviation professionals, because you don't have that many options over there. So it's an issue.
Thank you, Fabio.
Okay. Thank you very much for answering that question, both Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Gomez too. We have a raised hand from Habibe Hoja. We will take that and go back to the questions to the chat so that we can have more lively panel. So Habibe Hoja, what were you going to say?
Okay, good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Habibe Güngör, and I'm advisor of the Aviation Club. You are just joined at the moment. So I'll ask this question to all panelists. Aviation historians say us that, crisis so affects aviation. As soon as there is a crisis, like economic crisis or environmental crisis or safety security, it's so exposed by it. So how do you think aviation can create boundaries against the crisis, even during the crisis, after the crisis, pandemic, after the pandemic crisis, we saw that there is a, shortage of, staff on the ground, and we saw that in London, in Heathrow Airport, we saw all bags, they were healed because they had this problem, staff shortage problem. Even that show us aviation is not ready for the crisis. How can it be? It be ready more. What do you think about that? I wonder. Thank you very much.
Sumit?
Yes, see, the question that you've asked is a very high-level question. It is primarily a management leadership question. The aviation industry is very unique because it's a very highly regulated industry. It is regulated industry in terms of safety, security. Anything that you do is, kind of documented and also regulated. Now, if you want to fly a plane from country A to country B, or you overfly, there are a lot of regulations. There is ICA audits, then there are DGC audits, there are FAA audits. So compliance, governance is paramount. It is paramount in this industry. That's the first point. Second is crisis is there. If you see crisis affects only aviation business, no, crisis affects every business. So how the leaders of the industry addresses it, like, in the last session, there was again somebody who commented that there is a lot of political interference in certain countries. For example, there was an airline in India called Air India, which was owned by the Tatas and taken over by the government, and again now sent back to the Tatas. Why? Because government couldn't run the airline. You have to make some very quick decisions, and when there are political interference, you cannot do that. Having said that, there is a tendency in the aviation industry, people who work in the industry. Very rarely have people from other industries moved on into aviation. So if you have taken that example of Heathrow Airport is a classic example. Why? Because every year you see there are labor unrests, or there are some political or some climatic conditions that leads to a disruption. But how does the leadership deal with that? If Europe has got labor issues, India has got labor issues also, even European countries have got also labor issues. These are not labor issues. These are job protection mechanisms. So how does the leadership of the company deals with those issues is very important. If you have got snowstorm in the Europe, you have got fog in Delhi, you have got rains in Bombay, Mumbai, but there are business continuity plans, there are emergency response practices, how they are rolled out, how management is, creating teams, how the staff is geared, whether you're training people, whether you're training your people for cross-functional multitasking job. So a lot of things depend. So it is primarily a question for the management that how, see, you or me, we know that this is what Europe stands for, but how does London deal with it? How you predict and how you take corrective measures? How does management intervene? Those to an extent, like Mr. Fabian said, is the consequences of those decisions. So that is what I would have to, because I have run myself as a general manager, a very large ground handling company in India, which had businesses around 10, 12 cities. And we had huge labor issues, but which we could always forecast, we could always predict, we would always engage with the labor unions and then try to preempt and make sure that they never affected the operations or never impacted customers. So that's my answer to this question. Fabian, yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
There are highly professional.
Nothing more to add on that, because at the end, these are all more or less political decisions. It's not only a thing that the industry can decide. There are different ways to come to solutions.
Somebody asked me a question on the chat box. Is the bus business more complex or is the aviation business more complex? A business is a business. So there is no bad business or good business. There is a badly run business or a well-managed business. If the managed is well-managed, like Mr. Fabian said, everybody has to be engaged. Management has to be focused. Until those things happen, any business will become a bad business.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you very much for answering that. I was actually going to go to the chat questions, answer the question, but it was really great that you gave us some much more detail on it. So we'll go to another question too in the chat so that we can have much more interaction with the other people too. So one of the questions for all the panelists is, what are the difficulties that may exist establishing an airline in North America? Like maybe the challenges that may exist, because as we know, North America is more popular in aviation industry. So what's maybe the difficulties around there?
Is that question number 3 or number 4?
I think it's question.
This is a question in the chat box.
In the chat box, the students are asking, at the middle of the program. So I thought we could interact with them much more. I think you found the questions, right? What is the difficulties that may exist? Okay.
See, what happened is aviation business, I told you, is kind of regulated. So there are multiple type of airline. There is no one type of, there could be a charter airline, there could be a cargo airline, there could be a passenger airline, the regional airline, the international airline. So it depends that what is the company trying to establish? Is he trying to establish a large airline? And those regulations are primarily governed by ICAO, because they have to first apply, they have to get a security clearance, that who is starting the airline, where is the funding coming from, Then they have to get an AOP to get an air operating permit. Then is to demonstrate that they have the capabilities to run an airline, whether they have the operations management, they have the maintenance management, whether they have the financial wherewithals to manage the cash flow, whether the business plan is well operationalized, and then what is the market that they want to do. If you're trying to build a cargo airline, the kind of permissions that you would need, and you want to build a passenger airline, and the permissions that you would need, or the compliance that you need to kind of comply with, are vastly different. Let's say you are starting an airline in India. For you to fly outside the country, you have to either have a fleet of 20 aircrafts or need to fly the airline for 5 years. So there would be similar regulations across the world, and whichever country you go. And also it is a very capital intensive business. You need huge amount of capital to build an airline, because there are very few companies that manufacture planes. There is either a Boeing or an Embraer or an Airbus or an ATR, and these are the couple of 5-6 companies that make those aircrafts. And it is a very expensive assets, and those assets are owned primarily by the leasing companies. So they will also see how well their assets are protected. Like I told you, aviation is not only about airline. So people who work in those leasing companies also have a very strong understanding of the airline economics. So when you are buying a plane, you have to decide, suppose you have kind of decided to fly between point A and point B. So it depends whether you want to use a 787 or a 350 or an Embraer or a 757. So it is a regulated business, and it is a very complex business. The younger generation needs to build the right skills to work in the right projects, and they should be willing to work hard. That is the key thing that I would want to kind of pass on to the audience.
Really, thank you very much. Really brilliant. Is there anything you would like to add, Mr. Gomez, or should we go to the next question?
We can go ahead to the next question, please.
Okay. The next question will be... Okay. The next question will be for you, Mr. Gomez. One of the students are asking, working on developing aviation, starting from young people moving to experts, like what do you think is the main skill if they're going to start their aviation industry journey from a young age?
Well, no matter what you do, if it's aviation or whatever professional step you will take, you need passion, you need your love and your consistency, you need to work hard, like Sumit said. This is no magic. This is no magic steps to be taken. If you work hard, the results will come gradually, and it will come. They will come. Of course, they will come. You need to just to focus on what you really do and what you really need. And you need to make your own, let's say, program. You need to see yourself in 3, 5, and maybe 8 or 10 years. Where will you be in the next steps? What needs to be taken to develop skills and develop positions and stuff like that you may feel comfortable with. And if you feel comfortable, you will keep studying, you will keep doing what you do, and you will keep pushing yourself and try to help others. And this is one of the important things. Once you get a sense of what you really need to be and what you really need to develop, you will keep doing it, because we don't have that much time to lose or to waste. I'm 54 years old, and I'm proud of my 54 years old, but I wish I would be now 30 years again, and to start doing maybe different things in a different way. But this is not true. We have done everything what was possible and what was in our hands to develop ourselves. And as I said before, if you don't manage your own time, and if you don't are aware about things and wasting time of things that maybe at the end will cost you not only time. You need to focus. You need to focus, be passionate, and love what you do. That's what I always say. There is no magic in it.
Okay, thank you very much for answering that. You're correct. We should follow our passion at first so that we can have success in this industry too. And we'll go one question for Mr. Alejandro. I think we had this question internally. You've mentioned that Cubana was doing schools. It was taking Latin American students. So do you think that it's going to continue in the future, or after like Cuba becomes good, do you think it will continue, or it will stay like that?
Miss Sally, I have to interrupt you that Mr. Alejandro is suffering with internet connections. He will reconnect so that you can ask Miss Güngör's question, our lecturer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll continue. So due to the connection, we have lost Mr. Alejandro, so we'll continue with the other questions. Mr. Barat, what do you see in the future of aviation, particularly regarding the sustainability and emerging products? I think I would love to ask these questions for both our panelists. What do you see in the future of aviation, especially in sustainability and emerging technologies?
See, sustainability, when we use the word sustainability, we use the word in a very narrow sense. We think it is only about climate protection, about climate and protection. Of course, it is that. Majority of that is that. Also, aviation business needs to be sustainable in terms of financial viability. You cannot be running an airline and burning cash or kind of losing money for eternity. So today, sustainability is the flavor of the town, and we have to be very serious about it. We have to be responsible. And every government is taking steps. Every airline is demonstrating that they are serious about it. Sustainable biofuels. You can see a lot of wide body aircrafts now flying on biofuels. Carbon footprint has to be reduced when the way aviation does the business. It is not about running in the aircraft on a biofuel. Beyond that, how much is the infrastructure being used? So there are small things in the airport business, like bridge mounted equipments, like green equipments. Like one of the airports in India created a rule that once you land and you park your aircraft, the APUs have to be put off and they have to use the bridge mounted equipment. So these are small things that will eventually happen. And whether your operation is completely paperless. If you remember IATA in the cargo, they wanted to be a complete e-airway bill. So these are small steps that will go a long way. And Mr. Fabian can talk about e-airway bill, where the entire cargo chain will be completely paperless. Once upon a time when I was a handler and the aircraft would be parked, we would rush to the aircraft, we would bring the concertina bag, and cargo documents would be so thick. But today what has happened is everything is kind of digitized. So these small things will go a long way to make aviation sustainable. And until we are sustainable, we'll destroy the world. We will, and this whole thing will fall apart. So sustainability is something that we cannot ignore. We have to work in that kind of a direction. But I would really want to hear from Mr. Fabian that how do you think some of the countries, some of the lesser developed countries, or some of those elementary airline where Air Canada or Deltas of the world have kind of reached in terms of kind of a digital documenting, but some of the other smaller airlines have not been there. So what skills would the younger generation need to move from here to there?
You know, the sustainability is it's not only a word. I said that many times. Nowadays, to talk about sustainability is like, wow, we need to focus on. No, it's more than that. Sustainability starts with you. Starts with you, with your family, in your own environment. And talking about bigger companies and the rest of the world, of course, there are some measurements and things that, you know, every country will take considerations and take, you know, steps in a different way. It's not only a thing if everybody can do the same, maybe in different countries. I don't want to talk about specific countries, but if we talk about sustainability in Germany, it will be a different thing as we talk about sustainability in Mexico or in Honduras or whatever place. It all comes together, and at the end, all the countries need to find solutions for, you know, not only to create a better world, but to maintain a better world, and to not to you know, waste all our resources. But talking about the sustainability in the airline industry, of course, there are so many steps that needs to be taken more seriously. Not only the SAP, for example, the SAF, Sustainable Aircraft Fuel. It's not only 1 or 2 tests. We need to do it, you know, in general. And if we talk about, you know, to use less plastic and more recyclable stuff. If we talk on the passenger side, for example, the blankets we have and we use inside, that will be blankets made of recycled materials. There are so many things that can be done. Like you said, Sumit, the APUs need to be you know, shut off on a certain time, and you know, it's not only a little thing. And this is a thing that can be also studied somehow. You guys in the universities, you are much more focused on the aviators or airline things itself. But like Sumit said before, it's not only one thing about the airline, it's the entire environment, and sustainability comes to a point where it becomes very important in every step we take. In every step we take, yeah, everybody's talking about the carbon emission and footprints and stuff like that, but not everyone knows about the footprints and what is the footprint. How is the footprint calculated? We need to bring some more information in different minds, and not only talk about it. We need to do things, to explain, and to you know, bring younger people to do different things like they have done until now. It's not only, as I said, the carbon footprint and less CO2, and now I will buy an electro car and everything will be fine. No, it's not only that. It starts with you. It's an education thing. It's a thing about values. It's not only what can I do for me, what can I do for the next generation, for the family, for everything. And of course there are, you know, things like e-airway bill and paperless, and you go to different customs brokers in the world and they don't use paper anymore. Digitalization will be much more important in the near future as well. Everything comes to the same point. Values and education. Values and education. And you are on the right spot right now. You are in universities. You can develop different strategies. You can do different setups to do your own part of sustainability. And I sent that a couple of days ago. Strike Aviation is one of the GSAs in the world, and his own is a friend of mine, Frank Ziesemer. He just won the Oscar of the sustainability for the GSAs. Maybe it's worth that you go into the website and search for Strike Aviation and see the complete article, what was written by Frank Ziesemer. Maybe there you can see much more valuable points for the airline industry, especially for the cargo side. And you know, we can turn that specific bullet point to a day-long thing. We can talk about that all day long. Sustainability is not only one word, one thing, one measurement. It's a huge of understanding of there are lots of things that needs to be explained. We can cover with that point the entire day. It's very complicated, and it's not only on us. It's also on our countries and the political developments. It's a lot of things. Right now, you see in Mexico, for example, we have a volcano eruption of the Popocatépetl in Puebla, and yes, you may think maybe it's only a thing in Mexico, but the pollution, it's something that cares about every one of us. We need to be more consistent in everything we do and everything we need to develop. And yeah, it's an important thing, but I haven't studied, nothing special to explain all of this, because we need specialists. We need people that have studied and have his own doctor titles and that stuff, because this is not only a thing that can be explained in 2 minutes. That's from my point of view.
So true. Thank you very much. One thing that you said, so that means that we should first give awareness, like we should put the awareness into action before just saying stuff, media and stuff. So we should put the awareness into action.
Hayula, right?
Yeah, Haula. Yes.
Yeah, you're completely right. Awareness has different ways. Of course, you can, bring something on top of the table like a bullet point, but this has to be explained, not only to you and to your boss and people above. We need to explain that to younger people, younger generation. It starts with them, with us, with everyone. Sustainability, of course, is very important. Consistency, everything what's needed. Especially after COVID, everyone was more, focused on that word. But this word cares us since I was born, since 50, 60, 70 years. Sustainability has never been more important than now. But sustainability was even very important in 1894, you name it. Sustainability, it's a thing. It's a thing, and it's not only something that comes up because it's something. It's like a fashion, like it cares us most, and of course, with the globalization, sustainability becomes very, very and much more important. But as you said, we need to take more awareness about that. It's not only a word; it's more than that.
Yeah, so true. Thank you very much for answering those questions. We will go with the questions in the chat, the few last questions in the chat, and then we'll go back to our normal questions before our time ends. So one question is, how do we differentiate between air traffic control in military use and commercial use? For commercial use, it can be cargo or passenger. How can we differentiate that? Are they the same, or are there any differences between them?
Sumit?
See, there are standard procedures. Because if you see, there are some jargons, like there's a concept called collaborative decision making or something, when the whole airspace is regulated. It might, if you look up in the sky, it might look very empty, but airspace is pretty congested. Airspace is very congested because airspace is protected. It is a national territory, which means I cannot enter anybody else's airspace. It is protected. So what happens in majority of the countries is there is the air traffic control, which controls their airspace and they regulate. So any aircraft just cannot come in. There has to be a flight that has to be generated. And every aircraft is registered in a particular country. So when that aircraft has to go from point A to, suppose an aircraft is going from Delhi to London, for example, it will take off from India, Delhi, it will cross airspace, it will enter Pakistan, it will enter Iran, it will enter other countries, and it will go. So those flight plans need to be published. Those flight plans need to be filed. Previous approvals need to be approved. Only then the aeroplane can fly. You cannot just wake up in the morning and say, like you take your bicycle and go for a market or somewhere to ride. It is not like that. So everything is pre-planned. A flight has to be planned, let's say 24 hours, 12 hours, 6 hours in advance, depending on the type of flight it is. You see airlines, there are 2-3 kind of airline, like I said. Now there are scheduled airlines, there are non-scheduled airlines. When you are a scheduled airline, you need to publish your schedule twice a year. One is a winter schedule, one is a summer schedule. If you're a non-scheduled airline, you need to take your permissions minimum 7 days or 15 days. In some occasions, even 30 days before you take the flight. So it is regulated. So there are approved practices which are set in by the military or the Air Force organizations and the civil aviation organizations, the air traffic control. They work within those boundaries to make sure that there are no conflicts, there are no unsafe practices, and aeroplanes fly very safely. But like if you have flown into the United States, you have seen when you fly, you could really see aeroplanes going all over you. There are parallel landings, there are parallel takeoffs also. But in some other countries, it is not as congested as it is in the United States. So there are set procedures, and like a lot of people, I go and give lectures in colleges. I will take this question. I'll take a step back. When you ask any young generation, why do you want to be in aviation? They find aviation very attractive because you get to fly from one country to the other. A lot of young people tell me, I want to be a air hostess, I want to be a steward, I want to be a parser. Then my question is, why do you want to be an air hostess? Because I want to fly. But just to fly, you don't need to be an air hostess. You can you can pay your tickets and you can go. But are you willing to learn geography? Are you passionate about serving people? Are you passionate about history? Are you passionate about knowing different languages, knowing different cultures? If those questions are answered in affirmative, then yes, are you willing to lead a very disciplined life, because you would be joining a flight which is at 4 o'clock in the morning. So your life has to be extremely disciplined. So being a parser or being a captain or being an air hostess is just not about flying across the world. It is about learning new languages. It is like we also give an example. Customer is the God. If customer is the God, customer service is a religion. If customer service is the religion, airport is the temple or the church or the mosque, whatever way you want to put it. And who are we? We are customer service professionals. We are like the priests. So until you have that passion to serve customers, no matter whatever you do, you would not excel or you would not love. It will become a drudgery. I need to love. I love cargo handling. I love to work in the warehouse. I love to build pallets. I love to know about DGR. I love to know about AVI, perishable. When COVID was happening, I was working at the airport. And trust me, we had generated more revenue during COVID time than any other time. Why? Because although I come from customer service, I still love to be in aviation. So I love to be in cargo. So until the young generation is keen to learn, they're passionate about serving people, about learning, until you want to, when you work in aviation cargo, you know more about chemistry than maybe a high school chemistry student. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Fabian. Yeah. When you do a DGR course, you will learn more about chemistry than you would learn in your high school chemistry. Trust me.
Yeah, so it's a big family. At the end, it's a big family, learning from each other.
It is a big family, absolutely.
Yes, you will notice that after your studies, after you have finished and you have joined one or the other company or in general, you will see it. It's a very small family. You will meet almost everyone on every place, whether it is Miami or Tashkent or whatever place, in the cargo sites, cargo fairs, whatever, you will meet a lot of people, and this is the beauty of that business.
Very brilliant. And we are so excited to join that family, by the way, and we'll be part of it in some time. And we'll be reaching our last question from the chat. And I'll give this a question for both the panelists that we have now. What are some emerging challenges and opportunities in areas like airport infrastructure, air cargo, or aviation technology? So what are the challenges that are going to emerge in the future, and also the challenges that are now in these sectors?
I didn't catch the question that great. Can you repeat it again, please?
Of course. What are some emerging challenges and opportunities in areas like airport infrastructure or air cargo or aviation technology in general?
Oh, well, it's a good question. It's a good question. It starts with you. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? What is something, what will you interest you most? What is something that you will discover for your future? Because, you know, once you go deeper into the airline industry, whatever it is, it can be whatever place, it can be operation, cargo, sales, passenger sales, food, whatever. Once you discover that this is something for you, you need to be very focused and consistent, and you need to make your own decision. That will be your future. You cannot just be there for 2 or 3 years and then go away and do something differently and come back again. You will miss the train. You will miss the train. If you decided to go into the airline industry, whatever it is, charter brokerage, customs, whatsoever, if you decided that, take your best option, make your own decision. And if you have already family, talk to your family, because it's also a thing that will, the family will of course cover you at a certain extent, because if you start working shifts, your family needs to be prepared about that. Everything. And if you work overtimes because you work for a different or complicated airline or whatsoever, they need to cover you and you need to cover them. I don't know if you will be, and this is a question in general, if you will be a family member who brings the salary home to make everything works, then the pressure on you is huge. So you need to decide what will be the future for you. And what I can tell you is whatever you do and whatever you decide, it will be the right decision. Of course it is. It will be. And like I said before, you need to be absolute, open-minded. You need to be absolutely open-minded. Your level of frustration needs to be very, very, very high, because there will be sometimes easy, other days there will be not that easy. And it's like in every other kind of jobs. But especially the airline industry can be very frustrating. And Sumit knows about that. It's not only a thing that, you bring the cargo and you bring the cargo at 3 and at 6 it will be flying. No, it's not that way. If the freight is not, correctly packed, or the airbill is not okay or something like this, maybe the freight will not be flying. So it can be a problem, a bigger problem to the company who brings the freight. There will be so many things involved. So for you guys, it's very, very, very important. You need to discover your passion. It's not only a thing. And if you have chosen the airline industry because it's a funny thing to be learned, it's not only that. It's a different sense. It's a different sense of capabilities and things that you bring with you. So if I need to give you some advices, again, be open-minded. Your level of frustration needs to be high enough to stand and resist the bad days. The logistic itself is the logistic around the airline, no matter what niche you will be taken, is very important and very interesting. And if you become a specialist in your own area, you will love it. And the people around you will recognize you as that specific specialist for that specific thing. And you need to make your own brand. You need to be there and to be very much focused. That's what I said at the very beginning of that session. You know, you need to bring every day your best version of yourself. And if you don't do that, you better start selling some groceries and whatever other things. You need to be very, very, very focused on that. You know, the world waits for you. The world waits for leaders to take the advantage and to take everything what's needed to focus and to bring other young people into those positions and accompany them in that very grateful area. So, and it depends everything on you. If you start doing a career in cargo will be always needed because the world is managed by cargo, whether it is sea freight, train, or air freight. Air freight, of course, is the most expensive way to bring things from point A to B, but it's still the fastest. And it's very dedicated, and Sumit will not let me lie. It's a very, very interesting thing. And once you start it here, your family, your cargo family, your logistics or airline family will, will cover you. And once you need a new job, you just need to bring up your new network, your own network you will be creating in that time. And the network will open you new doors and this thing here is endless. And if you take it really seriously, and if you start doing everything what's possible, you learn, you're always preparing yourself, you're taking all kind of, tools like business intelligence, everything what's around you, take it for seriously and take it, for granted. This is for you, and you need to learn, you need to listen, you need to grow yourself. I don't know, Sumit, I guess you have more words to
I will give you a very specific example. You asked what are the emerging trends for airport. I'll take the airport example. When you build an airport, you cannot build airport in nowhere. Airports, they say, is the engine of economic growth. It is basically an infrastructure. So when you build, suppose your students are keen to work in the airport industry, for example, there are various things to do in the airport. It's infrastructure funding. How do you build a revenue profile of the airport? What kind of airlines are you trying to attract at the airport? Which geographical economic region is that airport going to be established? How will you do the land acquisition? There are historical cases where an airport is built. $1 billion was invested. And then the political leadership of the country decided not to open that airport. The entire investment went for a dud. So then there is engineering, there is architecture, there is civil engineering, then there is airport technology, then there is airport system. Then what is the revenue profile? Is the airport earning only through the aero economic charges? There are two kinds of charges in the airport, like landing parking charges, and there are car parking duty free. So imagine your students who are willing to work for the airport, and only the airport. You want to join an airport company. There are so many avenues. So whether you're in the airport designing, the airport maintenance, running the duty free, running the ramp, running the apron, running the cargo terminal, running the hotel, or maybe running the car park or running the aero city. So there is so much to do. Same thing goes with aircrafts also. But I tell people that whenever you join a business, you have to find out what are the key skills. Like if you want to run an airline, for example, one has to know how to buy fuel. Buying fuel is a very complex activity. buying aeroplane. I think, you know, if you see buying a car on a loan, you need to sign almost 100 pages to buy a car on a loan. Imagine how complex it would be to negotiate to buy an aeroplane. So there are complex deals, there are capital involved, right? So students have to identify at a very early age when they get into a college that what are my core strengths? Am I good in language? Am I good in dealing with people? Am I good in dealing with numbers? Am I into selling? Am I into customer service? And then build on. Airports also, suppose there's a fantastic airport, but no airlines fly. Or the airport is good, airlines fly, but the pricing is so screwed up that the dominant carrier withdraws from that airport. There will be no customers to buy duty free. So once you have decided that you want to jump into aviation, then, you know, I used to take classes in a college in India where they were teaching aviation MBA. So there were a lot of engineers, economic students who were graduated and they wanted to study airline management. My first question to them used to be, how many of you know how does an aircraft fly? It is irrelevant whether you are in airline management or airline finance or customer service. Your passion, you should be curious. Do you know how an aeroplane flies? Are you getting my point? So young kids have to be passionate, curious, read. YouTube is, believe me, a fantastic place where you can get very good resources. We were serving British Airways, for example. Now there is a three video series in the YouTube called A Very British Airline. And if you see that video, it's 45 minutes each, 3 videos, you will get a very comprehensive understanding how an airline is run, managed. There is a video in the YouTube which is called the Heathrow, the best airport in the United Kingdom. It's a 6 years that series was running. If you watch those videos, you will see how complex the business is and what all there is to do. And then to start from the beginning, build some fundamental skills and be ready to work hard.
You know, Sumit, let me just point out one sentence. I mean, this panel was great, and I like very much these, you know, the options. But maybe we can do later on a new panel with very specific points for you guys.
Yes.
And maybe you do just the opposite. You give us more questions you would like to have us answered for you for your future. What you are willing to take and what you are willing to learn and things. Because right now it was like an avalanche of information, many things and nothing. Well, it's maybe we can do it more focused, maybe on 2 or 3 panelists, prepare for you guys something very specific, gives you the real information on your next path. Because this is very important and this is very interesting. What you are taking, your education, your everything, the university, everything is very much. It's very important, but you need to have some real examples of things that can guide you through different ways of thinking, and maybe you will then after that decide more specifically what will you be doing in the future? Sales, administration, some analyst issues, whatever needed. I'm open to. Just let me know. I will be helping you a lot.
We will be very happy to arrange it with you, sir.
I say always the same. Be a leader, be human, be an example.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you.
Thank you very much. That was a really, really amazing idea. I think our administration would have would be taking notes, and we'll do that for sure, certainly in the future. We'll be waiting for that too. and also everyone will be waiting for that too. So we'll pass to the next, to our last question that will be going, and I'll pass my place to Khadija, my other moderator.
Okay, I want to thank you again for all the information that I've heard from you. Out of all the panels we made, you guys really helped us with a lot of information, with all your journeys, and thank you so much. So my next question is going to be for Mr. Fabian Gomez. As you guys know that this panel has a lot of students from different countries and nationalities, what are your advices to them to become successful in the aviation industry?
Well, if you allow me, you know, it's part of everything what we have said before. You need to be totally open-minded. And again, your level of frustration needs to be very high, because not everything is that easy. It's a nice environment, it's a nice work, but at the end, everything, you know, it's up to you. As I said, the logistic chain around the airline is stressful, demanding, but makes you proud when you are part of the chain. And at the end, what do you need most? You don't need to know 6 or 7 languages. If you know, I don't know, 2 or 3, maybe 4 languages, that will help you a lot. But as you see, English is the language, the leading language in that industry. If you know Turkish, and if you know some Arabic languages as well, and if you know Spanish or Portuguese, French, it will help you a lot. But at the end, what helps you most is yourself. You need to be focused, you need to be always thirsty, and you need to be always open to learn, to read, to you know, not only be in LinkedIn and see what will be the options, what will be job options. You know, go much deeper into the business intelligence for your own area once you have decided what would you like to do. Be a friend. Be always a friend to others. Be that, you know, that the people, they always need to have other ones to rely on. Be a friend. Be always friendly. Be always open. You never know. You never know what tomorrow will be. And maybe tomorrow, this specific guy will be your boss, and today was only your friend. Maybe you will need tomorrow to ask him for a job. So you need to work every day on the best version. As I said before, you need to work on your best version of yourself. You need to be always, you need to be consistent with your own setup, your character, your personality, even the humor. I mean, you cannot be like this one day and this the other day. Try to be consistent. Try to be always friendly. Try to be a lending hand to other ones. That will open you different paths and different ways and different doors and windows. And it's a privilege. It's a privilege to work in that area, really. And the more closer you work in the airline industry, in my case, if I can only give you an example from my special case. I started cleaning aircrafts. Right now, I am part of, or was part of buyer's team trying to buy aircrafts. I was one of the first Qatar Airways employees in Europe, and on that time we had a 310 Airbus doing the freight for us. Right now, look at the humongous, company that has become Qatar Airways. I was working for United Airlines many years ago, and I was the sales manager for United Airways in Frankfurt. You know, it's not only what you do and what you become later on. Your studies will give you some important pieces in your world. But at the end, you will decide with your experience and with your personality and your character how long or how far you will come. You will have you know, very nice and easy paths, and you will have not so many and not so easy paths on the other side. You will have nice colleagues around you and not so nice on the other side. The empathy, you know, exactly, excuse me. The empathy, you need to be very emphatic with the rest of the world. You need to learn different idiosyncrasies of the different countries. You need to get more closer to them, do the business with them, smell them, try to understand why they do the business that way and not that way. Be always fair, be always open, and not hide away. Just, you know, be there, be present, be a leader. Try to be a leader. Not everyone can be a leader, but you can be a leader. You have all the tools to be one of the next generation leaders. The university is giving you all what you need for that. So the sky is the limit, ladies and gentlemen. The sky is the limit. There are so many things you can develop and do. It's a humongous thing, absolutely. And if you need some help, whatever place it will be, Spain, Germany, France, Mexico, just let me know. Just let me know. I can help you. By the way, I speak 5 languages, and I'm not saying that very often because it's part of something that I have learned, and I like languages, and I like different, you know, mentalities and cultures. And if you do just a part of it, and if you just love a part of it, it will be great. It will be nice for you and for your families.
May I ask what are the languages that you learned?
I speak Spanish, of course, because I am Spanish. I speak German because I grew up and was born in Germany. I speak French. I speak English, of course, and Italian. I was trying to learn Greek for many years ago, but it was too time investing, too time consuming, and I haven't got the time. And even though I was very often in Turkey, I can only say Arkadaş and you know, things like that, and merhaba and stuff like that. But and of course I can order my meal, but you know, it's you always need to break the ice. Once you break the ice, your counterpart will help you, and that will make the beauty of that environment. And it's very specific and consistent in the airline industry. Whether you work in the passenger side, the cargo side, wherever place you will be working with airlines, you will be always having a lot of people around you. And again, the university gives you all the tools to be a leader, to be one of the next generation's leaders, and take advantage from that. Take advantage from that, and maybe we do the next panel with very much more precise questions, and maybe 2 or 3 or 5 or smaller group, and just focus on very specific questions that will help you to find your own paths in the next future. Thank you for inviting me, and God bless you. And of course, do the best what's possible. This is a very big opportunity for you guys. Don't miss it.
We must thank you, sir, for accepting to come here and giving us an answer for everything. And I'm sure that all the audience here got motivated from today's panel. I'm so glad that you agreed. I'm passing the mic to Paula.
Yeah, you know, it's always a bit different. This is an information in general. This is not something very specific where we need to be prepared for sustainability or whatever point we need to discuss. This is something very general, and it will give you much more insights for something that you just need to discover for yourself. Once you discover something for you, specific for you, for example, Khadija, you would like to be a cargo manager. Well, I guess Sumit and myself, we can give you much more precise insights how to be the next generation's cargo sales manager. And if you, Kaluya, you would like to be the passenger director, passenger sales director, then okay, I can give you some insights because of my experience, but maybe we need to bring some other panelists into the table or on top of the table to give you more precise information on that. Maybe in the future we can try to make small groups with same interests and to find panelists to give you much more precise information on that specific topic that you need. But this is something that you need to decide. I'm open to help you, and just let me know.
We will be very happy to arrange it with you, sir. Thank you so much.
Merhaba.
Merhaba, sir.
Teşekkür ederim.
Rica ederiz.
Something like, yeah, you know, since I was living in Frankfurt for almost 40 years, I have so many Turkish friends, so many. And of course, I have learned some bad words, of course. There are plenty.
They say when you learn a new language, you need to learn the abusive words.
Absolutely. But I also have learned, you know, very nice things like, I don't know, Sebisivodium, you know, things, you know, engage with love and stuff like that. But languages are always a key to a different door. And I love languages. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Kaloya. Thank you, Khadija. Thank you.
No problem. I'd like to thank Mr. Barat, Mr.
Berkay, sir, me.
Berkay.
Okay.
The president of the IGU Aviation Club.
Katnan, everyone, thank you very much. See you next time.
See you.
Thank you very much, sir.
May we make a conclusion, sir? As a final. We will make our final speech.
Of course.
Floor is yours.
Yeah. Okay. We'd like to thank Mr. Barat, Mr. Gomez, and our past panelists, Mr. Rodriguez, for their great contributions and attendance. I will leave the stage to our club president, Mr. Akaya, for the conclusion.
Dear panelists, explain just a nice and small, you know, Alejandro was not able to attend the entire day the panel, and I would like to say sorry for him. I will contact him later on and talk to him. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Dear panelists, lecturers, and audience, we have finished our third aviation panel, Bulutların Üstünde, about the clouds. With all of your interest and contributions, I would like to thank all of you. Firstly to Mr. Gomez, Mr. Barat, Mr. Rodriguez. We really got inspired with your great speeches. IGU Aviation Club will continue to make the most important events as a student club. See you at our next event. Stay with the aviation.
Yeah, of course. See you next. And no matter what kind of questions you may have, please let me know via WhatsApp or whatever, and I will answer it.
Sorry, sir. One of our audience wants to talk. Matt, you can talk if you want. Okay, then. Thank you so much again, sir.